Alright, should be... You're good. What's up, Lord Hendrickson? What's up, Jared Punch? How are you guys doing? Just getting things set up, sent out, and everything, going for the stream. And then we can get to talking about everything happening this week, everything up and coming. Obviously, the big reveal at the end of the fairy tale chapter, what makes Celine. Black Clover, I think, is really going to get into some big lore stuff soon. There's a lot of different characters just kind of like going all over the place right now with that. And I really like that, Asta and Noelle are all kind of doing their own thing. Meanwhile, Chainsaw Man is just being Chainsaw Man, insane at every single point. Eden Zero is starting to see some of the influence of Ziggy and the machines starting Machine Uprising and then wanting to take over. Things are just getting crazy all over the board. Sukuna is close to getting all of his fingers back. Undead Unlocked, the betrayal with Billy. Everything is kind of just going overboard. Everything's getting to, like I said, a very chaotic spot with, their points in the story. Very hyped for that. Yeah, Black Clover's big hype right now. Like I said, almost everything I think I read is really hype. The only thing that I've been reading lately that I've not big hype, it's Phantom Seer, it was that Blood Oath, new series that haven't gotten to a point to kind of build into a big arc because they're still establishing stuff. But everything else is really just getting aggressively set all over the place, and I like it a lot. I really like how things have just been all setting up, and how just in general, where their arcs are all going and what these characters are all doing. And I also like that there's some good spooky aspects to each of them right now, and it fits into, the October, into Spooktober. Will Laguna Island be linked to Celine? Oh, you mean Galuna Island, not Laguna. I think so. I genuinely really think that she's going to relate to, the Bellianese. We know that Bellianese has something to do, it was the language in chant used towards the moon drip, and obviously the moon, an ability based around the moon, and some unknown culture that we don't really have a whole lot of intel on, could easily relate into Celine. There's a lot of different things that could really tie to her character, moon drip, the celestial spirit keys, the anima portal, maybe even the somewhat connected with the eclipse gate. Maybe she had something to do with Zeref kind of figuring out, obviously, because the eclipse itself, having this set kind of tone around, a solar eclipse. It's just a possibility, because it's just one of those things where it's it's moon related, and there's some spatial crossing in it. Obviously, Moondrip's a little extra because there's also, or not Moondrip, sorry, the eclipse, because there's also gateways in time that happen. There's a lot right now that we could really get connecting back to this character. And that's one of the things I really like about her, and I'm extremely interested to see what exactly she's going to, like I said, connect to in events throughout the story and different abilities and stuff. Will Urza see Irene? I hope so. I'm not too sure. I mean, she can't really see her now. She would have to get a body back. But when it comes to... I know that some people want to see the Irene and Urza interactions. I'm perfectly okay with us getting it or not getting it, because she obviously has way more, I think she has way more character interest and stakes to go and do stuff with Wendy, because of her and Wendy having obviously similar abilities, and having this teacher and student role, and, Dragon Slayer's on top of that. Oh, well, almost to teacher and student, pretty much. I mean, she's learned abilities from her so far, like the Separation Enchantment, but the Urza and Irene stuff holds possibility, but I don't think it is as interesting as Wendy learning from Irene. I really like seeing that, and it progresses Wendy's character as well. And it's something I don't think anybody expected at all. If Irene came back before that chapter, I think everybody would assume it has something to do with, it's going to be an Urza plotline, but it ended up being a Wendy plotline, and I really liked that. I thought that was really interesting, and it was completely unexpected. What's up, Lewis? How's it going, man? Dravenob, how's it going? How are you? I'm doing pretty good. Funny how Wendy sees Urza. No, it's not. She's not a mother character to Urza, or to Wendy. She's a big sister character. That's because the whole setup is supposed to obviously be like the two, like what Lucy is like the girl next door for Natsu. Natsu and Gray are like these two brothers that are always arguing, and fighting. Urza's their Urza's their parental role, kind of, but more of like an authoritative figure, big sister, and then Wendy is obviously the very younger sister when it comes to them. It's all set for this like again like family through bonds dynamic, not by blood, and it's still a really interesting thing to kind of like get your head set on, is that now Wendy has this broken master level enchantress to teach her and to help her just get better. I mean, literally think about it. They're always going to like Lucy's house. They're always kind of just showing up at her place. And really, even if Wendy was newer than Lucy, when you really look at Lucy's position at the start, she didn't have as much, she hadn't been there very long, didn't have the bonds that, the other characters already had with each other. But she was also very, like, she was a big rookie with her magic at the start. So Lucy, on top of, like, being new, also had a new position as being a wizard. And seeing her kind of like integrated in, as well as like how she became more competent as a wizard throughout it, I think makes her at the same time again feel almost like that girl next door role. And them always going to her house too, I think is just an additional like thing that they just do, or apartment rather. I think Irene can get a body. And a lot of people are wondering about that, if Irene could get a body. Like, the thing is, Irene doesn't need a body. She can make one. Because look at Haynes and Juliet. Like, she took magic, enchanted the weapons, with a personality, and then gave them a physical form with her abilities. So she could essentially create her own body out of pure magic. Like, she could do low amounts of what Zeref could do with his books, but Irene could easily do that for herself. I have the Black Clover chapter in English right now, low quality. I've already read the new chapter. I still don't think that the Anti-Magic Devil is more of an antagonist. I don't think he dislikes Asta. I think he likes Asta. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is solved, because for one, a cool fight. I like cool fights, obviously, but I'd much rather have a character-driven solution for what's going on here in development between Asta and the Anti-Magic Devil. But on top of that, Asta can't really do anything right now. He's got one arm. This is a extremely powered up, character who would be already a threat for him, even if he had his swords. But now he doesn't have his swords. He can't use his book. He can't use his abilities. I think 100% it's going to be some form of character kind of like revelation scenario, or Asta just having to figure out, what exactly is the Anti-Magic Devil trying to tell him, or what's his goal kind of thing. Let's see. Let me read some more of these comments. Why is it not fully scrolled down? It's weird. I'm going to refresh I had a page open. I'm just going to read it from Streamlabs. I'm going to refresh the page itself. What's up, Gino J? How's it going? True, but the honest Spriggan is just fucking broken. I mean, yeah, the Spriggan are all broken. Even the Spriggan that aren't really broken are still pretty broken. Like, God Serena didn't have any hack spells, but the fact he had multiple Dragon Slayer Lacrimas made him broken, that he, like, pretty much because he could just replenish his magic and stamina from relatively almost anything. You'd have to have some super broken hacks that kind of bypass his, like, high stamina and refresh and magic refreshing ability with him eating elements, and those elements included water, earth, and air. So big, heavy breathing rocks and bodies of water he can consume, get magic and power back, as well as just become stronger in general. Like, that was his big hacks. And then you look at like Jacob. Jacob doesn't have any like crazy large scale feats, but he could just stealth and then walk in transport and then completely just spatially lock people out of there. He was a good fighter hand to hand, but obviously he doesn't have like big power output. He is stealth and hacks. Like, they're all really broken. All of the Spriggan are really broken. And they all kind of felt like what Blue Note was. When we look back at Sirius Island, you had generally, the 9, or not 9 demon gates, the 7 kin of purgatory, and then, oh, here comes like this like extra member of Grimoire Heart. Here's Blue Note, who's above them. He's between the, Elentear and Hades, and the Spriggan all kind of had that vibe to them, just like, oh yeah, they're all below Zeref, but they're all these massive group fight struggles for the most part. Only a couple characters were able to just straight 1v1 as Spriggan. Only certain, either guild arts, we already obviously knew guild arts, Laxus, Jalal, Natsu to a degree. Nineheart's a different story because Nineheart, like, him being a classic caster and a summoner, like, he was never going to have high durability, so Natsu getting him, taking him out was perfectly, again, believable for, like, the comparison of, oh yeah, somebody who's already, like Natsu, closer to Spriggan level, but he has raw power output, and durability. He's pretty much high offense, high durability, and good stamina, but the fact he could eat magic and eat fire and replenish his magic and stamina made up for that. Because Lucy's thing being out of the main group is that she has a large supply of magic, whereas Natsu's is how well he can refresh it. And from that, like, Nineheart still, like, even now, I figured when we got Nineheart originally that he would have his own historias that he could use on himself, his own personal, like, dark memories to bring forward to fight. Because he's similar to Wolfen, that his power is dangerous, but it's also very situational in a lot of ways. Because, like, imagine if you didn't have any people in your life that really, like, died. Like, everybody you just really knew, at least as a fighter, obviously, like, some random person you meet that just dies. It's completely different. Imagine a character who just hasn't had any, like, one really worth that's powerful in your life die, and then it's like, cool, you're just gonna make a bunch of copies of characters who can't really do anything. Whereas, after other Spriggan died, if you were to fight Nineheart, he just, use his ability to bring up a history of Bloodman Wall and God Serena. It's like, yeah, now he's more of a threat. Like, when it came to Nineheart, it just really, really heavily leaned on that, classic caster, he's in summoner. Like, when we saw him fight, he himself wasn't fighting. It was large scale, using his Historia of the Dead, and summoning all these Historias all around Hargion. And again, that's fine. It gave all of the Spriggan different feels to them, but still made sure they were all a threat, and all of them just had broken-ass magic. Anyone saw... I haven't watched the Inuyasha sequel yet. I haven't watched it yet. But I'm planning to at some point. Because I haven't watched the Burn the Witch anime, but I read the manga. It's kind of that same thing where I'm thinking about. I actually really want to catch up to Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh my god, how much? Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. I almost said Arc 5, but Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. I want to get caught up with that, I think, before I get into any of these newer ones. I think the only new anime I've watched was Jujutsu Kaisen, because I really wanted to see how well the animation held up. Just because that was one of the big hype ones, and obviously, them getting Mappa, and there was, like... I know there was issues with the God of High School anime that, like, God of High School fans weren't keen on, so I was a little bit worried that... plus, they're doing Attack on Titan, so it was like, well, I hope they don't, try and, like, short budget certain things. Because it's like, if they had Jujutsu Kaisen as one thing, but Attack on Titan a much bigger series, I was like, oh, hopefully they don't end up kind of, like, shortcutting Jujutsu Kaisen to hype up Attack on Titan, and it doesn't look to be that way. It looks like it's doing pretty well, and people have been taking well to it. We're super hyped for the Satoru Jogo fight in a couple of weeks, because it's only, like, chapter 14 or 15 that fight starts? Assuming 2 chapters an episode. They're on episode 2 right now, so it'll be like 3 goes to 4 and 5. So what, like 5 episodes? 5 or 6 episodes from now? And then we'll get to that? Sweet. It'll be pretty badass if so. One-Armed Asta is still twice more muscular than Yuno's entire... Yeah, but that doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean anything. Asta being more muscular than Yuno doesn't really mean anything in this situation. And to mention that was willing to sort out touching them. He's gonna him having this floating thing... I'm really hoping that Tabata does more with that, because it reminds me a lot of I know people have compared this situation to, like, Ichigo. It's kind of like a combination of Ichigo fighting against Inner Hollow and Ichigo getting Bankai. But the thing to me that really, when you think about that, is I'm really hoping, because based off this new chapter, when he makes the sword float, it's It reminds me of when Ichigo fought his like the inner hollow, and he held Zangetsu by the wrapping of the guard and spun it. And I always thought that move was really cool, and like it's one of the moves in the game. There was a DS game, and one of the characters you could unlock was Hollow Ichigo, and that was one of the moves he could do, and it was really strong and really useful. And it was like, why didn't Ichigo ever like, use moves like that? Because he's like, oh, he's using Zangetsu in ways I've never heard of or never thought of, and it's like, oh, cool, he's gonna see, oh, this is a technique that I haven't done. Maybe I can develop more of these, and he never did. And that to me is one of the big missed opportunities of Bleach, like in my opinion, because I know like people meme on the fact Ichigo doesn't really have many techniques, but he didn't need to have many like crazy techniques when it came to like the differences in abilities. I think just in general, having essentially Getsuga Tensho, like different ways he disperses Ryatsu through Zangetsu, but just in different motions. Like imagine him spinning it and then he's like using Getsuga Tensho and it's spinning out the, multiple in different directions, and he's able to pretty much machine gun shoot him out instead of just one big slash. Stuff like that would be really cool. So I'm really hoping that Asta, after seeing the anti-magic devil do stuff like this, that he's going to want to do that himself. He's going to be like, oh, I should, figure out how to do that technique. I should figure out how to do that after seeing it to improve my abilities. Also, really quick, how's my mic sound? Because the other day, I think it was yesterday morning, I actually had to redo my predictions for the next chapter, 100 Years Quest, because the first one I did had a lot of static on it, and I was just not really sure why, and I'm just wondering if it, had something to do with, like, one of my settings. I know I turned my gain up slightly for that one, and then I turned it back down, so I don't really know if it sounds, better or what. Anyway, let me keep reading. Hey, Rax, I feel the woman of anti-magic be the relative Asta's. I already brought up, I'm just going to stick with my theory that Asta is the son of the anti-magic devil, and that's his mom. I haven't done the theory video yet, but I want to. There's like that and another one I really want to do for Black Clover, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But I like the idea of it, like of Asta being like this child that should have never happened, because it'd be a way to kind of hype him up. But as long as they it's like, oh well, this is why he doesn't have magic. Like your existence came with a cost of not having magic, and if it's in a way that makes Asta's background hype, but at the same time, it's like because of that is why he didn't have magic and why he, had to suffer in this humiliation. As long as it doesn't kind of like build him up like he's some big deal or anything. In like origin, instead of like, oh, that's just kind of cool. I'm perfectly fine though if they stick with he's just a peasant from a nobody family and stuff just kind of went crazy, and in his story something happened and he didn't have magic anymore, and he just story begins. So where'd you scale Selene? Selene is at least as powerful. All the Dragon Gods should be at least as powerful as normal Acnologia. So she is a world-ending threat. She is a threat to the planet itself. Like, she's dangerous. Funny Rogue is the only Slayer we never saw eat his own element. We saw Natsu. We've seen Gajo when we've seen Laxus versus Wall. We haven't seen Skollion. There's multiple Dragon Slayers we haven't seen their element. Like, there's still multiple. Like, Rogue, if you were going to say something about Rogue, it's the fact that he and Cobra, out of the original, not the original, but out of the 7 before Diablos, like the 7 core ones that, fought Acnologia, Rogue and Cobra are the ones that haven't used any secret arts. Like, Sting has Holy Nova. Natsu has Crimson Lotus. He's got his Phoenix Sword, and he's got his Crimson Exploding Flame Blade. Wendy has her Sky Drill. Gajil has his Iron Trade God Sword. Is it Karma Demon Iron Trade God Sword? I like that how that technique has God, Dragon, and Demon all in the title. Just adds extra to Gajil. Laxus has Roaring Thunder. Even Curia has a secret art. Natsu has 3, doesn't he? I don't know if they ever counted his Fire Dragon Fist he used on Gajil. Like, cause I'm trying to remember if he ever had like the fact it was just, like the idea of it being a secret on it. I don't think so. Was it? I just remember Natsu using. I had to go back and look specifically if it was a secret. I don't think so. Because in the manga, I think Natsu uses it again in the anime. I believe it was when he went to and fought Aragorn in the Eurastion Caesar, because I know the anime added that. But I don't think it was a secret art when he initially used it. I'm pretty sure it's not canon as one though. Again, I'm just going back to look really quick because I'm trying really hard to remember. It's not too important, but Madmo hasn't. But like the fact that Kiria got to like almost instantly, like the first chapter we saw Kiria do anything, she got to have a secret art. Meanwhile, like Natsu has multiple. Yeah, Natsu doesn't have or his Fire Dragon Fist is not a secret art. So he's got his Crimson Exploding Flame Blade, he's got his Phoenix Sword, and he's got his Purgatory Dragon Fire, not having 3. Gajel having an extra one in non-canon, like he's got the drill. Definitely need to get Rogue one at some point. Mic is good. Cool, thanks. Yeah, I got a new mic, and I had this setup, and it sounded really good, but then like when I did the video yesterday as some static. I think the one that I recorded later has a little bit of it. I want to fix it. Hang on, let me. So should I just did you just rub the mic to get all that static out or something? That comes from your own static electricity when touching the mic. To avoid it, you need to touch metal from time to time. I have a pair of scissors on my desk. Should I just touch those every once in a while? I have a pair of scissors. I can't remember what the last reason I had to cut something was with these. I think it was when I was putting like flea drops on my cats to make sure that it didn't contract any fleas from my new cat. Because she had a couple low level of fleas when I first got her. My fluffy cat had bad fleas when I first got him. It took a while to get rid of them all. Just gotta keep them out. Them shits are annoying. Let me see. What's up, Guillotine? How's it going, man? Just really quick, just because I haven't got to shill yet. I would appreciate anyone for thumbs up the video. If you could thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. Like the stream, subscribe if you haven't, and like and retweet the the post. So hopefully we can get more people in here. And all donations are appreciated. They are not required. Thank you. Anyway, let's get back to the conversations. What kind of race do you think lives in Elentear? So I think Elentear is either going to be some god realm or pretty much heaven. And both of those I think will be are going to be really beneficial just to the expansion of the series. Because I believe that the Exceed are from Elentear. I think they originate from there. And that's probably why they have these angelic wings. Because maybe they're supposed to be like the messengers or some form, some form of like active members of, a heaven-like realm. And that would explain why they apparently have this Aqua Era spell. Because the original one is Era, and then Toka has Aqua Era, which apparently can transverse between dimensions. So there's definitely, I think, some Exceed lore coming up. And one thing that was noted is when they were talking about the Anima Portal that, the thing that the Exceed flew through, it's potentially an ability they have. So, big stuff coming up there. I really want to see how exactly Daedalus information connects. Because I think this arc already has done a lot of wonders for my take on Daedalus. Because to me, Daedalus, out of all like the main arcs, was the weakest, and it was primarily from the fact that like nothing in Daedalus really connected to the rest of the story. Like, almost everything else has something to do with Zeref or Acnologia or, July 7th, X777. There was always something that related back to the overall arcing plot of the series. And Daedalus didn't really have much of that, but I like that it's being used instead to expand onto the current stuff. I think that's really good. Celine Crossing Dimensions is a huge deal, more hype. Yeah, she's a lot more hype than Alderaan. It says, Mercephobia never had any, like, big hype like this. Like, just descriptionary hype. Descriptionary, is that a word? Descriptional? I don't know, just raw description, not even like a big hype display. Alderaan didn't really have much of that. It was more on just like the raw size and power output he had. And, obviously he was just, in general, a big threat. Selene already has larger threat capabilities with her. Because when you think about Alderaan, and I need to do the video still of it, exactly, going over Alderaan's defeat. Because right now, Mercephobia doesn't seem like he was, like, we didn't really hear anything in general about, like, his power rise over the last 400 years. It was never really too focused. It was just like, oh yeah, he got stronger, and whatnot. Ignia obviously was trying to get stronger to fight Acnologia, and obviously was going around causing havoc. Alderaan rested for 300 years, absorbing power. It was stacking onto it, and he was, it wasn't the same as him just naturally making his power larger. He found a way to get around that just by, resting and essentially having sacrificial lambs to boost him. Whereas Selene, I'm guessing Selene was just powerful beforehand, but she couldn't fight Acnologia. Like, she was already way high up on the ladder, but Acnologia was just too much for her to handle, so she just left. Viernes is still a mystery. I really want to see exactly why he's, not even Mercephobia knows anything about Viernes. Viernes' secrecy, I think, holds a lot of just big questionary existence in the series. Because there has to be something much extra to Viernes for, for the reveal. Because what would be the point of being like, oh yeah, I know nothing about Viernes, other than maybe it's like, almost coughed right there. Maybe Mishima still has, something he wants to set up before we get to Viernes. Like, gonna be a bit before we see exactly what the big hype is for his character. I think Ignia will end up the most powerful, at least out of the 5, and then whatever Elentear seems to have scheming, and I'm hoping Natsu becomes the 7th, because I believe that there's going to be 7 Dragon Gods, 1 bad guy reveal one, and then Natsu becoming one, because they're based off the 7 Luminary Days. We only have 5 right now. Margir versus Meliodas, Memento Mori, over. Margir drops Memento Mori, it's GG. What exactly does Meliodas do to that? Absolutely nothing. It has an AoE outward outward encroaching and collapsing paralysis curse that then erases you. Meliodas dies. Meliodas can't combat with that. Margir has the speed. He's got raw physical power. The only thing that Meliodas has is like regeneration on Margir. Big whoop, Margir kills him. I don't care what anyone has to say. If Asta doesn't end up with Sister Lily, I'm burning my black. Why would you do that? I mean, I get Asta likes Sister Lily, but like Sister Lily is just kind of the way I view Sister Lily's character is so you could have a different thing about him from the start and give Asta love interest instead of it just, becoming whoever the female lead is from the start, but something that will keep him from developing any other relationships until he gets over this one. Sister Lily's plotline needs to get solved, I think, by the end of the Spade War. I don't want her plotline to go too far in to where it just, it's been one of those things in the background forever. I don't see Sister Lily getting anywhere. Meliodas can't beat Margir. Meliodas has 0 counter to Memento Mori. And Memento Mori is a curse, not magic, so Meliodas can't full counter it, or revenge counter it, or do any of those moves on it. He gets up close, Margir drops Memento Mori, GG. Null probably has, and plus he can absorb dark magic. So what, Meliodas' darkness shit doesn't do anything. He's only got his sword, he's got his pretty much just physical slashes, and Margir was deflecting and parrying the Celestial Spirit King. So, Meliodas isn't doing shit. I mean, Asta's gonna end up with Noelle. I think anybody can predict that. I mean, it's just, I feel like that's one of those obvious things that everyone is pretty much okay with. I don't think anybody would be like, I can't believe he ends up with Noelle in the future. I think everybody's going to be pretty cool with that. I think the majority of the people like Asta and as well as Noelle. They're both just very likable characters. And I think they have a nice relationship so far. But it needs to develop more than just being, Noelle having a crush on Asta. It needs that at some point Asta realize that. And I think that maybe get into like a soft kind of like mutual feelings moment before whenever Asta decides to be with Noelle. It's not a big thing right now. I'm hoping it becomes more of their own personal character plot line at some point in the future. Exceeds our messengers. Yeah, I think that there's something going to be about them that relates to Elentear. I don't think it's a coincidence that they were in existence in Edelus that somehow didn't reflect over into Earthland. Two, they could use magic inside of Edelus that nobody else could have. They had abilities that nobody in Edelus had otherwise, and they had this kind of like godlike position over them. I think that they are from Elentear, and they use their abilities, that we already know, like when Shagot using her abilities to kind of convince them that she's essentially a god. But also, it would make sense of why they would use that idea on these guys if they were from an actual dimension where they know their high position and relations to a god. Maybe they originally had to flee Elentear because of Selene. Who knows? Selene cross dimensions just like Otsutsuki's. Otsutsuki's aren't as cool as Selene. Let's be honest. Can Sasuke freely... Sasuke has to teleport. I don't think he can freely travel through dimensions. White Wizard's the new Mavis of the guild? I don't know about that. Like, I don't think she's ever really had that idea in her. Because the thing about Mavis is Mavis was this big morale, leading, and strategy person. But I don't really see how the White Witch instantly kind of like pairs into that position. Because she's been tactical to a degree, but obviously she's not the same level of like big analytical plotter that Mavis was. The White Witch, though, I think she's going to end up joining up with the main crew to fight against Selene. How exactly she plays into this and what she's going to be doing, I don't really know. I'm wondering if she's going to end up, like, we're going to see anything with this rebellious group that she's apparently like in charge of. Because now she's in this other realm, and she can't use magic anymore. So how is she going to have her powers? Is she going to have to go back to Elentear to use her abilities, or what? Jamie Fear probably. What? I don't know what that meant. Jamie. Oh, that guy's name is Jamie Fear. I was like, what are you talking about? Elentear probably has the opposite genders. I don't want it to be an alternate universe. I don't want it to be another alternate universe. We've already done that. We don't need another one. I don't think just doing the same plot is going to have nearly as much of a bonus this time. Because the thing that made... It was the differences in position, I think, that made Edelus interesting. Oh, the Fairy Tail Guild is a dark guild. They're on the run. Oh, their enemy is Edelus Makarov, who's got Edelus Urza as like a fairy hunter. Multiple members of the guild have been killed. There was a lot of really cool stuff in there, but I don't want to see that again. I'd like Selene to have her own crew. Like, I'm not opposed to, like, maybe being some alternate version of a character, but I would rather, if it's some form of heaven thing, to be, like, reoccurrent, like, older characters who were dead. Like, what if we got to see a panel that had pretty much all of the previous, like, bosses, for the most part, all the straight bad ones, because Zeref wouldn't want to do anything. But what if we saw, like, him essentially mobilize back up Hades, Zero, Margear, Animus, like, just a lot of big characters that died, all going against them now, or something like that. Otherwise, like, I'd like just newer characters, because when they bring back older characters, it's different. Bring back somebody that, we haven't seen in a long time, and either it's a cameo or they're somehow relevant, cool. But I don't want to just have, like, oh, it's Ellen, like, I don't want another Urza, especially. We don't need any more. We don't just need to have, like, another Urza circle jerk. I think it's perfectly fine just having the new characters. Like, we already have Elsie. Like, Elsie is pretty much like if we had Nightwalker and Urza fused, where she has that villainous kind of like presence, but Urza's caring and kind of like more family orientated outlook on things. He's kind of like a version of both. I don't think we need another. The only way I think it would really work is instead if they were kind of based off of them, but more of like representations of aspects about them. Like if we saw like a character who was kind of like Urza's like knightly justice persona taken to the max, or Natsu's crazy kind of like high energy berserker thing taken to the max. Something like that, where it's like, oh, there are versions of kind of like these ideas of characters, but they're almost the pinnacles of it, kind of thing. Again, it's kind of weird, because I know that some people have already speculated just alternate versions of characters again. I really don't want to do that. I don't think I would really care to see that. It's not like it would be bad, because obviously it would depend entirely how it was handled. But it's not the hype that I want right now. Because like I said, I want it to be something from like a god realm, or like heaven, not just another realm of, you know, characters in different outfits with different personalities, but they're, you know, they're not essentially the same thing. They're rooted out of the same ideas of characters you've already seen. And I don't think that'll be as interesting. I don't know. I would rather see, like I said, like crazy mysticist, like god-like stuff. Maybe some more, like, finding out, like, maybe we'll actually see Kronos. Maybe we could see hints to Ankh Saram. Or, like I said, some form of afterlife. I'd be really hyped if we got to see, you know, something like multiple big boss characters, like, pretty much dead, and then we get to see them again. I think that'd be really cool, but, like, make it so it's like, oh, they're more powerful over in Elentear because of the nature of the realm or something. Because of, like, all the extra magic. What makes me think Sister Lily's evil? The whole idea of Sister Lily being evil is the fact that her name and appearance and stuff is seemingly, like, I don't know if it's a coincidence. It could be a coincidence. And naming and kind of appearance stuff relating to Lilith, who is a demon that steals children. And obviously her being at a church with a bunch of orphans. It's pretty sus. That's what it mostly is right now. I don't think it's any like, oh, for sure. It's mostly just, I don't like, you know, skin scratching. I was gonna say chin scratching, and just be like, something could be up here. Keep an eye on that. Keep that area bookmarked. We're gonna get back to the spookiness of what goes on with Sister Lily at some point. But for now, we got bigger stuff to you know, keep our attention towards. But nobody look away from the Sister Lily stuff. We got to make sure it doesn't go somewhere south. What happened to Edelus, Zeref, and Mavis? Who knows? I mean, like, the thing about the Edelus versions is they could be as different as, you know, different personalities, like the two Natsus. Or it could be like the two Wendy's, where there's a years of age as a difference. Or, you know, Edelus Grandine was born hundreds of years after the Earthland Grandine. Edelus Makarov is tall, and, you know, he's seemingly a bit vicious. Oh, let me see this. It would be interesting to have a Void Natsu. If there's something like the idea of, for one, also thank you very much for the, is it £2? I'm not too sure what the currency is, but I do appreciate the two units of currency, Bellamy. But, again, if it would depend entirely how it's handled. I don't want it to be the same. You just busted a nut. I should wait until the notification for the donation at least comes up, so I can not get interrupted by the notification sound I myself have set up. But yeah, again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Something like a Void Natsu, I think, would be something cool. Like, if they do it, it should be kind of like how you have you know, like Sora in Kingdom Hearts, and you have Anti-Sora. Something like a dark reflection of them, I think, would be cooler. Where it's like, Fire Force has that, would kind of, with some characters having, like, demons that are, like, linked to them. Like, a demon version of them. Something like that, where it's kind of like, oh, it's sort of like them, but it's not as much as, like, oh, you know, a slight different personality or slight different age or something. It would have to be so different that the only thing about them is that they are, they're based off of the same like conceptual character, but taken in a completely different direction. A completely different direction. And that's just my opinion. Obviously, like, my take on things is just my opinion. And we'll see how other people feel, and we'll see how things end up turning out. Like, we have another week. What's today? Saturday? So, what? Is it 10 days? No. It's, 10 days. 10 days. A week from now, and then, well, if you count it, otherwise it's 9 days. So I guess, like, half of today, half of Tuesday. So, a little less than half of Tuesday. Than it is about 10 days. That's always for me the good thing about when you get to that that weekend, and it's like, man, the weekend's almost over, and then I think, oh sweet, only a little bit over a week until 100 Years Quest chapter, and then it's like, okay, only 2 days, and then get back to that. Always hype. I always like waking. I actually set my alarm to like 2 minutes that morning, before the chapter comes out, so I can wake up, and then it's just like check notifications or whatever, and then see if see when the chapter comes out, read through it, and then give a little hints to the people out on the internets and stuff, and then get ready to talk about it. I think that's actually like a really cool thing to do in general, because I like to wake up right when chapters come out as well for Shonen Jump, because I like when you first wake up and you just come back into consciousness, and then taking in the information of the chapter, I think helps kind of like engrave it into your brain, because it's like right when your brain is fresh and just kind of processing everything. I don't know, I might just be thinking that's how it works, and be completely wrong. Either way, it's worked for me so far. Let me see. I'm gonna scroll down. I don't want to miss any messages. I gotta see where I was. Again, thank you very much for the donation. All donations are appreciated. None of them are demanded or required. They are always just full freedom of choice if they want to. I was trying to figure out like how to say that. It's all optional. It's all up to if people want to give any donations. The Void Natsu, I guess the thing about the Void Natsu though would be is that what will help like unlock Natsu to control his Aetherius powers too? I just really like the idea of like a god realm, and to like start finding out about like god characters. Like we already have Kronos. We've got we got 16 battle gods of Yakuma that we haven't seen. We don't know anything about Ankh Saram. There's definitely stuff that we really can start getting further into. Selene might be stronger than base Acnologia. I don't think so. I really don't think so. Like Acnologia is just so busted. If she was powerful enough to beat him too, she would have done so. We've seen Takeover, Animal, Monster, Satan, and God Soul, right? Yep, Machine Soul, and yeah, that's true. What about Human Soul, taking over Human Mage like Laxus, for example? I mean, I don't. Why would we need that? I mean, the closest you have to that already is human subordination magic. When we saw Zoldio have it, because you can possess people. I mean, and you can take them to summon them at some point. I don't think there'd be much of a point in Human Soul too. Like, if you had Human Soul, the way that it would pretty much work is you just be. I guess really it's just Franmoth. Now that I think about it, it's just Franmoth. Like Franmoth and his revolution. That's essentially what it did. He had like the same style, but he directly absorbed the souls. Whereas Takeover, like you can absorb souls, but it also it's just kind of like knowing how the composition and like layout of what it is you're copying. Like we saw Elfman do it against Rusty Rose, just taking his jet black sword. Rax Natsu would kill. Rax END Natsu would kill. I don't think he could kill the ravines between time, the space between time Acnologia. I don't think that. Like, that is an Acnologia that's completely unpredicted and unprecedented. Like, he was a monster. Granted, maybe he can. I think that the one that fought Mercephobia has a chance. Just because that version of Natsu is completely busted beyond belief. The fact he was able to body Mercephobia after a couple of hits, it wouldn't surprise me if like, full Dragon Force Aetherius Natsu can beat Space Between Time Acnologia. I don't think like the E&D version that we saw, either occurrence could beat Space Between Time Acnologia, but I think that if that specific version of Acno, you're going to need full Dragon with Aetherius Powers Natsu. Let's see. Back to normal. Acnologia is already stupidly OP. Yeah, he's broken. Oh, he's not talking to me. Do you think Elentear is ultimate? I think Elentear has some form of nefarious scheme going on. And either he's absorbing... I think he's doing something with the Dragon God's powers either to boost himself or to summon something. Like some form of other godlike character. Or open some form of portal. Like, he's definitely suspicious. How do you think the main cast will be at the end of Year's Quest? I think all of them, like, I think for the most part, all of them are going to be, like, upper Spriggan, kind of like Irene and August. And then I think Natsu is going to just be Dragon God level. Like, Natsu for sure has to be Dragon God level by the time he fights Ignia. Because the difference between other characters, like, it's supposed to be a, team fights and, group effort. But when it comes to Ignia, I think it should be Natsu versus Ignia. Because it's way more personal than just them fighting these big bosses. When it comes to Ignia, it's way more set into Natsu's backstory and what's going on with, the relationship between him and Ignil on both sides. Let's see. Yeah, none of that. The thing is, the way that I look at it, when it comes to the Dragon Gods and Acnologia, I think they're all as powerful as normal Acnologia. Normal Acnologia versus the Dragon Gods, I think that they're on level. But Acnologia being able to pretty much just consume all magic, he's going to be able just to completely non-stop fighting. Because the magic is literally in the air and in the environment. There's always going to be magic for him to consume. And... I mean, like, the thing also about Giltina, like, we've seen parts where it pretty much has concentrated magic that will just kind of float down like snow. So, like, the magic in the air and in the world is potent enough in areas that Acnologia would have he'd be just fine and have no problem continuously boosting himself up. And having, a character at your level who never loses power and is constantly just coming at you always, you're going to get overwhelmed. Like, that's the thing about Acnologia, I would say, in reference to, like, the Dragon Gods. Like, their power level versus his. Natsu would obviously be Dragon God level, probably. Natsu is already... What do you mean? Natsu is already continental. Natsu in base is large to multi-continental already. The Dragon Gods are already all planetary threats and are way beyond continental. Like, the Phoenix is drastically below them, and that could scorch the entire surface of the planet. And the Fairy Tale planet is way bigger than Earth by a disgustingly, like, massive margin. Oh, let's see. Dragonoff, wait. He'd be Fairy Tale world level. Oh, talk about Void Natsu. Weird how Edelus Makarov is Faust is related to Edelus Joel. Yeah, the thing is... Well, the thing about Edelus Laxus, it's just assume he's dead. Any members that would otherwise not be there, or, with exceptions of, like, Urza and Makarov, just assume they're dead. Because we already knew going into that arc that members of the Edelus Fairy Tale Guild had died during, like, the escapes against the, Edelus Empire, against Faust's regime. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one of the things, though, that's very different of Edelus, is it's not just personality. Like, Edelus Jalal is Edelus Makarov's son. So he's got a completely, like, different, like, setup. It's just similar characters all in different scenarios and different upbringings, kind of. And then, obviously, in some cases, different points in time that they're born. Zero, that's what I thought, because that's probably one of the ones I see the second most, obviously, after, like, the dollar. And I assume it's either the euro or the pound, generally. Yeah, but thanks a lot. I appreciate the €2, man. And he did state he surpassed Anglo. So him surpassing and him saying surpassed seems more like a personal hype. And when it comes to, like, characters personally hyping themselves over, a character, I think it needs to be, like, with something to back it up. Because obviously there's a difference between, like, oh, I'm a bigger deal than Jura. It's like, okay, that's believable. There's definitely a good amount of characters stronger than him, or even above Spriggan. I'd say, okay, harder to believe, but it's completely possible. Ignia just saying he's above Acnologia, it's like, I don't know. And whereas we have an outside source who said that they're all on level with Acnologia, I'm going to go with the person that's on the outside source. Plus, Ignia just seems like one of those super cocky, over kind of like flex characters. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's just kind of like over-present himself. Wonder if there are different devils outside the Kilthoth in the form level of the Makeki. Oh, we know that there's lower tier devils. These are just the big tier devils. These are all the really big ones that are going to be like unlocked on the way to bring out Lucifero. We know that there's a bunch of smaller ones out there. I'm wondering if there's going to be other devils that are already present in the world. Like, are we going to go somewhere and there's like a devil that's just been somewhere for centuries, but it's not... It doesn't have the same, like, kind of, like, malicious goals. Maybe it already achieved what it wanted, and what it wanted was just to leave the demon realm or something. Let's see, who's a better character? Mystagon or Jalal? Jalal. That's not even comparable. The only thing I would give Mystagon over Jalal is, like, when he was that mysterious character, he had that extra cool kind of, like, sleek design to him. But obviously Jalal is a better character. Let's see, not at me, talking about Ivan. I don't care about Ivan. So, ain't all villains cocky? It really depends on the villain. Let's see, I'm glad I'm not alone in being hyped for Selene. Yeah, Selene is really cool. And everything about Elentear I'm really excited to see presented in the next chapter. I'm hoping this next chapter is like pretty much just an information chapter. We just find about Elentear and Selene. Primarily, though, I want to hear about Selene. All of Ekno's forms are broken. He's a freak in his human form. Yeah, he's super busted. Franmoth had one super cool quote when he and Hades and I said, I beat him already. And Franmoth responded, yeah, well, the thing is, Franmoth was their goofy character. Like, they always have, like, a character that's a little bit more comedic than the rest. Franmoth was actually, like, cool. I liked when he absorbed Natsu's lightning flame dragon roar and, like, clad that onto him. I did think he was a pretty cool bad guy for being, like, silly. Because, like, Kane Hikaru was way more silly in comparison, whereas Franmoth had, like, his catchphrase, and he would ask, like, the price of things, and his forms looked a little goofy at times, but he was still, like, a pretty impressive character. I do like that about him. And I liked seeing him fight. I liked this, like, the way his body moved, like, the way it would overly stretch, and he'd have, like weird little, like, pieces of him shoot out and attach to people to drain their souls. I thought he was just cool. I always really liked Franmoth, and that was the thing that kind of made me sad, though, after Tartarus, is he lived, but we never really saw him again. We never really saw Franmoth, like, sneak and make a comeback and, like, do something. I wish that we had, like, maybe, like, an anime-only, like, episode, or, like, maybe a mini-arc before Alvarez, where it's, like, Franmoth is doing something. Or maybe Franmoth was one of the villains leading up until, like, leading right after the time skip, and then, they beat him, and it's way easier, but for the most part, they're able to beat him. Like, imagine if Franmoth's like, oh, he absorbed multiple other demons and other souls, and he obtained just a bunch along the way, and he's just like an amalgam of different villains. I think that'd be really cool just to see them beat them, like, right after the time skip. And it's always bummed me out, like, not seeing Franmoth again, because I did like his character, I liked his design, and it was weird to have him, same with Obra, it was weird to have them kind of, like, have this extra thing, like, like, Franmoth survived, and he, like, has this kind of, like, parasitic nature to him, and Obra was actually the weird little imp. But Mishima didn't really do anything with that. It always bummed me out, because it was or plot lines like Ivan, where it was like, man, there's potentially some really cool stuff out of that, but it never got really built beyond that, like, kind of, like, start point. So, at the same time, it kept it from really feeling like wasted plot lines, and feeling like just stuff set up that if Mishima wanted to do what he could have, but then, I don't want to do this part anymore. I have different plans, and then, it never was big to begin with, more of just like, maybe? Question, kind of like the 100 Years quest. Like, we never had to see the 100 Years quest, but it made sense to open up more onto it when we got to, the ender areas of Alvarez. I could crush and kill all. Acting like he's a monster. Dude was super beast. Like, he just was a living apocalypse. What is this? It's a fact. He stated he wanted to kill him alone, but not to defeat him. I mean, yeah, but that's what he says. We don't know if that's factual. What's up, Iron Nancy? How's it going, man? I like your spooky Halloween avatar. Could old Sarah be like Brain Zero and needs other fights to be taken out to free himself or luck if true? So I think it's going to have something to do with the line at the start of 100 Years Quest when he says that magic wasn't evil, and he's the Dragon of Law. I definitely believe that whatever he's doing is going to either be empowering himself or summoning some other being. And it's going to be like, oh, he wants to kind of like put the world into better order, or he wants to just pretty much restart or something. Like I don't think his character and the way he was introduced would, I don't think he would really fit into anything like other than being like a quest giver if he doesn't have some big plot twist at the end, because he's not participating in the 100 Years Quest. He's not like showing up really and like giving newer info. He's kind of just like occasionally we glance back to him. So I think that each time we see, we're going to be getting a little bit more. And by the time we get near the end, we're going to see like signs of him being evil. That's my guess. If Zeref is Jesus, then who's Judas? Let me think. Who betrayed? I mean, Zeref never really had any betrayal. I think that was one of the things, though, that kind of like made his empire better. Because Zeref, I mean, obviously Zeref isn't a one-for-one for Jesus, but he's presented in a similar manner that he has all these different perspectives of what Zeref's presence and what Zeref promises. As well as there are people that see Zeref as a positive way, and there are people who see Zeref as a very dark and negative way. Like, there are a lot of people that viewed him as this living calamity, this terrifying dark wizard that, you know, created all these demons and plunged the world into complete disarray. And it's because of that you know, he's feared as, like, the most powerful black mage in history in the fairy tale world. Whereas some people obviously saw that as, oh, Zeref being able to, you know, he's immortal, he can create life, he's seemingly just a natural at all magic. And because of that, he's almost viewed, like I said, like this messiah kind of position. And again, he's also, like, even his design, the way he's dressed, is very similar to that of Jesus. And whereas, like, Jesus was given the power to come back from the dead after he was, you know, executed. You have Zeref, who wants to die, who, you know, has been cursed by God to, you know, live and to understand that kind of, like, value for human life and the cycle of life and death. Whereas, you know, Jesus was given the power to kind of, like, bypass that for the people. But because of their own things, like, because of their own positions, Jesus went around doing good stuff for people, whereas Zeref's own want for suicide ended up doing a lot of terrible and bad things for people. Jesus, like, created, you know, he could create water and bread and fish and stuff and have this power to create nourishment, and nourishment obviously essentially being life, whereas Zeref was creating life to lead to death. There's a lot of ways that his character kind of relates to him. Obviously, it's not a one-for-one. There's no, like, oh, Zeref came back in 3 days kind of thing. Because Zeref not having anybody in the Spriggan betray him, I always really liked. Because you look back at, like, Brain, and Brain betraying, you know, the members of the Ratio Sace, and then when they get out of prison after the Grand Magic Games, you have Cobra turn on Brain because he only saw him really as a pawn. Whereas Zeref's crew were ultimately loyal to him enough that they were fine with it because they saw him as pretty much this higher being. Zeref was this immortal emperor that had this whole plan to better the world and to do everything and help everyone, essentially. Good. I read that one. Rex, how do you think Black Clover's world... Wait. How big do you think Black Clover's world would be? I mean, the assumption by default is always just the size of Earth. I think it's what most people really go on. We don't know if it's bigger or smaller. Just go with Earth for now. Completely unknown, because we only know the one continent so far. Serbian dragon is just suspicious. Why couldn't he go after the dragon gods himself if he had that? Well, the thing is, he says he wasn't powerful enough, but why wouldn't he assist on the journey that he believed was the last one? Because them being able to defeat Acnologia to him was like, oh, well, nobody's ever going to be able to do a better job than whatever these guys are going to be at. So, like, him not joining them to help, to me, is, like, super suspicious. The weird tablet in the wall is super suspicious. The, like, wish for anything is extremely suspicious. Like, he is somebody that I definitely do not trust. Who knows, they could be stronger than him. We don't know that, though. The only thing that we could say that, like, goes in that general direction is Ignia, but Ignia seems like one of those characters that will overhype himself, and none of them, if they were stronger than Acnologia, they would have went and beaten him. Keep in mind that Acnologia was still alive until a year ago. A year ago. If they were even within range to being able to beat Acnologia, they would have done it. Like, I don't think Ignia went from, like, considerably weaker than Acnologia to considerably stronger than him in a year when he's a 400-plus-year-old dragon who's been spending his entire life wanting to fight Acnologia. Especially if people were in mid-fighting him at that point, he would have showed up only a year prior. I'd say Ignia and Acnologia, I think all the dragon gods are on level with Acnologia in base. Space Between Time Acnologia is completely different. I think Space Between Time Acnologia is stronger than all of them easily. But base Acnologia, I'd say they're equal to about in level. The difference, though, is Acnologia has a way better advantage on them with his, just being a magic dragon. Having the raw magic ability to, raw magic attribute to consume all magic. Yeah, Iron Knight said, I definitely say at least equal to. But Acnologia would win because he just has outright better abilities. It's like this Space Between Time. I would not say that Ignia is largely above Acnologia, even base Acnologia. Like I said, if he was, he would have went and fought him a year ago. Yeah, Mishima even said that Acnologia is the strongest character in the series. He said this like a week and a half ago. Ignia, as far as we know, is just overhyping himself. Nock is like Rogue using Kaku's as Shadow Beast, Asta the young Naruto fighting in Inner Hollow to face off against Gear and save Fiore. What? It's definitely a lot of extra. I mean, the Anti-Magic Devil is nothing like Gear. He doesn't even look or act like him. Acnologia versus Beerus. I mean, Beerus is just gonna, obliterate him. Like, Acnologia is definitely powerful. But, I mean, actually, the thing is, in speed, Acnologia can keep up with him in speed because of, like, the sheer absurdity of the boost that Natsu got in, is it Space Between Time Acnologia? Because that's obviously different than base Acnologia. Base Acnologia gets mutilated, whereas Space Between Time Acnologia, I think, is a completely different story because he's hacks, he's absurdly more powerful. There's no way that the Ethereus Dragon Force Natsu we saw was stronger than Space Between Time Acnologia. Maybe a full version, but the version we saw is not stronger than, the strongest Acnologia. And that version of Natsu had a multiplying, power boost on the level of millions. Because his base Demolition Fist did 1/100th million of Alderaan's, total health. His total, durability and stamina. And Alderaan is equal to Mercephobia. The Ethereus Dragon Force Natsu beat Mercephobia in a couple of hits. So, in a handful of hits, he covered that gap of 1/100th million. So he's at least somewhere in the double-digit millions of a boost. And Natsu in base, even in Grand Magic Games, was already dodging lasers. Gildarts in Aistro was also outspeeding lasers. And these are versions that are, in base, way below this, and obviously Acnologia is going to scale. Acnologia, though, in Space and Time Acnologia doesn't really have the hacks, though, to compete with Beerus. He's got overwhelmingly high power, but so does Beerus. And Beerus has, Hakai or whatever. It comes down, honestly, to certain characters in Fairy Tail. They can contend with bigger shots just because of, some of the large boosts that, we've gotten through stuff like Space Between Time Acnologia and absurd multiplier boost that we've gotten in 100 Years Quest. Fairmont's goofy shape is probably the mushroom. I like the mushroom one, though, because it's this last resort survival move, and he becomes this inactive little, fungus. I do like Fairmont. Who's stronger, Igni, who's just talking? Yeah, I think he was just talking. I think he was just hyping himself up. I think that, until otherwise we get some confirmation by somebody other than Ignia that they are on level with Acnologia. I don't think that he's more powerful than Acnologia, at least right now. I could fully believe by the end of 100 Years Quest that he's stronger than normal Acnologia by if he just ends up becoming more powerful through whatever means, or maybe he's been still training, or something happens to reveal, oh, he was more powerful than him, and now we're gonna actually see it. Until we get something like that, I'm gonna go with the outside source that has set a line for each of the dragon gods, and not the guy who's clearly very cocky and very hot-headed, hyping himself up. The difference, though, with Space Between Time Acnologia, Iron Nancy, is that he's busted on a concept level. And that is very genuine. Because, when you have characters who are just raw power, obviously Beerus has other stuff, but he's got a lot of raw power. When you have characters that can eat energy to a point of, conceptual existence, it's Hax is just overwhelming at this point. Obviously, though, he does have a Kai. He just can use that destruction move and work on him that way. ROT it was what it was. Ravines of Time, the officials of Space Between Time. I very much believe that Ankh Saram is above both versions of Acnologue, because he's logically the top. He's logically the very top of the fairy tale hierarchy. The only one that I can see above him is if Hiramashima decided to include Mashimir from the Heroes continuity. Just because he seems to overarch all of them, because being a representation of the author. Let me see. What's up, Sammy? How's it going? I'm trying to catch up on the comments, but how are you, dude? If Zeref is Jesus, then Mavis is Mary Magdalene. Yeah, Mavis had a child she didn't know about. She didn't know if she ever got pregnant with him. Think about it. Think about it. Wait, no, I'm thinking of the Virgin Mary, not Mary Magdalene. I wonder what the double connection Oz is. I think he's Oz's dad. Well, yeah, I think he's asking why if there's a Judas is the idea if it is Jesus similar, then what does it have that similar of a character? I think it doesn't need to have that exact one. But I think it definitely opens, towards the general idea that I was putting out there. Let's see. Looks like the White Wizard had a reason for her actions, all because Elentear. Yeah, she seems to be. I'm guessing she got put on some form of quest from the White Witch, or from Selene. Sent her over there to go unleash Alderaan, and now she's just gonna kind of try and do things on her own. Because think about the way that she was talking. It seemed like she wanted to have Alderaan let loose and then just go and destroy the world because she wanted to hype up the moon. And she lost her position in doing that, and now she just seems to want to just take it over on her, by herself without having to get up. But now she has to. When Ankh Saram went to kill Natsu since he's contradicting life and the rules of life and death. Well, we don't know what exactly Ankh Saram's total activity kind of what is how does he find out people do this? What is this character specifically going to do to take action? Because Mavis was in a war for a while before she was affected by the curse. When we get to Ankh Saram, if we ever get to Ankh Saram, I definitely want to see what it's like for him in picking and choosing between people he curses, and how does he watch over them? At what point is he oh, well, this is the person I'm going to decide? Because Natsu already is obviously a weird exception, obviously with his living magic link and how he was dead at one point. I hope we get an antagonist under his quest as entering the Zeref and threatening his acting Logan. I think that's what Selene's going to be. Well, maybe not in the full position, but I think Selene is going to have that kind of high level of presence, a high level of influence and flex. Whoever, well, if Elentear does summon or create some form of being, that has to do with that weird tablet he has. Every time a dragon god's power is sealed, we see some form of action take place on it where the color in their carvings disappears. Is that just an indicator for some reason that he has? I don't think it's just that. I think there's going to be some bigger purpose of it. And maybe that will segue into what comes after 100 Years Quest. Or, a secret extra boss that we'll have to, just wait and see to find out. Viernez as well. Viernez is extremely interesting. And I hope Viernez is I really hope Viernes being extra secretive is going to really pay off and be a really big deal. Because he's probably going to be before Ignia. Because I think Ignia needs to be last. Ignia needs to be at last at least out of the 5. And Viernes had to have that extra layer of like, oh, I've never met him before. I know stuff about the other Dragon Gods, but nothing about Viernes. So I really do think we need to get some extra character to him. Because Mercephobia was presented more like a person. He wasn't a dragon in a lot of ways, like that we would really expect. Whereas Alderaan really was a bad dragon. Like, he was a bad person. He was a bad individual that was a threat to everybody. And he was presented more like a monster. Even his human form, you know, like that with that crown and having not a human actually, like, he had a humanoid form, but it wasn't, like, obviously the same as any other dragon that we've seen take the form of a human. Instead of it just being like, oh, a human version of it, just like arms, legs, normal shape, but definitely not some form of wood creature. And Selene has that level of just mastermind, like, aura to her. She seems like she's going to just in general, like, know how to play mind games and have, like, a lot of tricks up her sleeves. Ignia is way more rooted in Natsu's personal story, and obviously with Ignia. But when it comes to Viernes, I think Viernes really needs to have an extra layer of just, like, some large character, like, bonus to make him stand out. And having him something kind of, like, more of a complicated and maybe, like, multiple layers character, I think really would be a really nice way to do it. So, I don't know, it's the big waiting game right now for them. Or somehow relate back to a previous point in the story, maybe? What's up, Telehim? How's it going, man? I'm doing good, Kimano. Just enjoying the stream. For a while, I was thinking, like, whether or not I wanted to stream today. And then I was just like, I really wanted to just chatter and, you know, hang out for a little bit. And I was like, why don't I just stream then? That's exactly what I do in streaming. So I decided to set everything up and get to streaming, like I said. But yeah, right now I'm just catching up on the comments, seeing what exactly everyone is what's doing. Yeah, I heard Nancy's in here, Sammy's in here, old Kamano's in here. Everyone seems to be popping in. We're having some good numbers. And like I've said before, for anybody that's maybe not as regular in the streams, they, like, even if it says, you know, it has like Fairy Tail and Black Clover, Need and Zero in the title, it's a community stream. So if you want to ask questions completely not related to any of the series we're talking about, just go ahead. It's more of an interaction between, you know, the people that show up for the stream and myself. I think the White Witch has a future role. I'm really hoping she sticks around. I like her. I think she's interesting. I like her design. And if she... I'm kind of hoping that she does end up kind of going towards that idea that a lot of people had early, that she had a thing for Natsu. Obviously, it was Toka, and it was a misunderstanding. She liked Happy. But I think the White Witch, if she had some form of kind of like affection growing towards Natsu, it could do wonders for developing Natsu and Lucy's relationship, because theirs is the hardest one that I think needs to get worked on. Because Gray and Juvie is only like a step away. Urza and Jalal Urza and Jalal, literally, I think it's gonna just happen. And it's gonna be more of like those conflicts and stuff that keeps popping up that kind of keeps them from, you know, maybe having some more intimate time. Gajo Levy's already a thing. Everything else seems to be moving pretty well. Natsu and Lucy's difficult because I think Lucy's aware of it but doesn't want to admit it. She's kind of like Noelle. Whereas Natsu, I just think Natsu's completely unaware of like any form of affection towards Lucy. We've seen them present. We just haven't seen it. Like, either of them really acknowledge anything about it. White is sus. The White Witch is suspect. Rex, do you think Dante goes against Asta's beliefs and ideology as a character? I mean, Dante's thing really is just, like, how he views people and the true nature of people. Like, they both have, like, this idea of human nature, but for the most part, I don't really think that he, as an individual, really contrasts Asta. It's more of just... I think Dante's just an interesting villain in general. I think he's a very intriguing guy. There's still, like, the idea of, like, how Asta wants to help as many people as possible, whereas Dante's fine throwing people away in order to create a more interesting world. There's points to them that are opposing, but I don't think it's as like heavily reflective between the two of them. Maybe if 5 Dragon Gods versus Acnologia. I think if all of them teamed up, Acnologia wouldn't win. That's too much. All 5 of them? Like, I think Acnologia could maybe take 2. Maybe take 2. Just because, again, he has the elemental advantage. He would have to fight seriously. He wouldn't be able to fuck around like he did with Igneal. Because we know against Igneal, like, Acnologia wasn't really fighting serious. He wasn't fighting all out. He was having fun. Like, we know when Zeref met up with the Acnologia right before the Alvarez arc, that Acnologia was still waiting to fight somebody all out. So, maybe 2, definitely not 5. Spirit God is destruction, power, magic. Well, the thing about it is, I'm talking about Acnologia could consume concepts. Acnologia was able to consume concepts, like the space between time. That was literally constructed from time travel, putting strain on reality, and then the concept of time itself trying to repair it. It was like a scab, essentially. It's literally a hole in the universe that leads to nothing, and Acnologia overcame that, consumed it, and absorbed it. Acnologia is actually really underrated at how broken he is. I hope you get stronger to beat Xenon. I wonder if the bot will show you don't get stronger. We'll skip to it. I'm hoping we get glimpses and we see like what exactly he's doing to train. I don't think we need like some long drawn out training portion of him. I think it'd be really cool to kind of like how the fights were going. If like during like right after Asta's training, like right before like maybe Asta passed out or something, we get over to Yuno or we get to Noel and we start to really see what exactly for each of them is going to be. It's going to be like the big development for the rematch in a few days. But I think Asta's is going to kind of like peer away soon because it's supposed to take days. So I'm guessing like Asta's will be last and we'll see Yuno and Noel and then we'll kind of like peer back and know what Asta's doing. Yeah, what's up, Sam? How's it going? Mr. Gunn probably would have taken the 100 Years quest if you mentioned Celine knows what she is. No, he wouldn't. He would have said, fuck no. No. Like, that people in Edelus didn't target a better realm, a magic realm that is outright in all ways superior to Earthland and Edelus, because of Celine maybe being a threat. He's not going to want to fight her. That'd be a terrible idea. This is like if you knew where a bear was sleeping and you're just like, you know what? I really just feel like going and getting a fist fight. It's like, no, you know where they are. You know, if you just leave them alone, they're not going to cause you any problems. But you know that if you try and you know, make them hostile, you're going to get killed. And then Mystigun would have also risked Celine showing up into Earthland. Well, maybe not that because she would have to worry about running into Acnologia. But like, what would he have done? I don't think he would want to fuck with him. Well, actually, probably not because he wouldn't have known about Acnologia. It would just depend on whether or not Celine risks coming over or not. But I don't think she would. Let's see. Oh, I'm scrolling up. Where was I? Virgin Mary is Jesus' mother. Yeah, I already said that. I got it confused. I already said that. I already corrected myself. Acting good to go to the continent where Dragon Gods are hiding. We didn't see him exactly where. We know he was at Mount Zonia. Mount Zonia is in Fiore. We just know that Gildarts went there at some point. We don't know why Gildarts went there. We haven't gotten there. We know that on the 100 Years quest at some point he went to Mount Zonia. Because Mount Zonia is where the fight took place on was it? Oh my god, I'm trying to remember exactly. Mount Zonia was where wasn't it near where Irene was when she showed up on the battlefield? Yeah, because she's the one that changed the landscape and and the whole biome from this ice one. It's near Mount Hakobe. I'm just trying to pull up a map to kind of look at exact locations. Because she wasn't like just directly right there. She was a little bit away from the battle for a bit, and like she just completely her doing that for one was crazy. But it's not Mount Zonia isn't in isn't in Giltina. It's in Fiore. That's one of the big questions of why Guildarts was there. And is the question of if Acnologia was looking for the Dragon Gods, because at some point, Acnologia's, whatever Acnologia was doing intertwined with Guildarts looking for Dragon Gods. So I'm wondering if that has to do with Viernes. Because it's got to do with one of them. We don't know exactly what, but it has to have some form of tie to them. Or at least an explanation of what reason Guildarts would go there. Because Guildarts obviously going there has to be, like, a reason other than, like, oh yeah, I was questing. He had to have some form of clue or some form of hint that said, oh, go over there. It could have easily just been like, oh, there was a sighting of maybe of a dragon, and it was there, and Guildarts went and traveled there, and instead of a dragon god, it was Acnologia. Something like that. Like something like that would make sense to me. But I don't know. It's a small detail, but I feel like it's a detail that we need to know. To me, it just feels important. I've always felt it's an important question because it obviously relates to both an event that happened to Guildarts, but it also relates to Acnologia and the current storyline. How am I doing, Kimon? I'm doing pretty good. Imagine if Acnologia eats on Saram, just become super god, mega dragon, destroy everything. Virgin Mary, yeah, I already read that one. Give solid proof Natsu's multi-continental. Just need to know. Natsu in base already scales above Ethereon. That's, like, I mean, Ethereon already could completely engulf a country the size of the continent, because Fiore is almost twice the size of American just width. It's massive, and it's a small country. And the blast radius of Ethereon, just the blast radius, not including, like, the type of destructive output that it gives, it covers a continental-sized mass. And that, at Wall's level, starts in terms of power output. And there's absolutely no way that you're going to convince me that Wall has more firepower than Natsu. Especially after Natsu's feats, especially after, like, some of the things that, like, in general that we've seen Natsu do post-time skip. No. Natsu was able to go and neutralize attacks from a powered-up August. Natsu was able to throw hands with Zeref. Natsu was able to survive hits from Acnologia. Natsu was able, in base, to survive a roar from Mercephobia. He is so far beyond Wall and so far beyond Ethereon, it's not even funny. Ethereon's not even a big deal anymore. There's multiple things in Fairy Tail bigger than it. Fairy Heart, the space between time, Dragon Cry, Face. Ethereon is not even as high up there as early people think. It just was the first big hype thing. And somehow it's stuck into people's heads too. Let's see. Natsu. Yes, he is. Natsu is multi-continental in base. Get that shit out of here. To say he's not is to say that he's weaker than Ethereon, which is absolutely not true. Natsu is drastically above Ethereon. Anybody worth a damn is above Ethereon now. So it's interesting. I'm thinking more the Gold Dragon. Yeah, Viernes having an extra layer of secrecy to already a secret group like the Dragon Gods is big hype for him. It's very big hype for his character. In that case, now it's related to both Black Wizards and White Wizards. I don't know what this do anything. Imagine if he had Buddha-like quality powers. The fuck is Dante? Oh, from Black Clover. Dante, I'm trying to remember how to always pronounce their name. The Zolgratis of the Dark Triad. A pervert? He's not a pervert. I don't think Dante's really a pervert. Hi Rax, I'm a huge fan of your channel. Been watching your videos for a while. First time commenting on your streams. So glad I caught you live. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. The Anime Fan 99. Always appreciate the activities. Always appreciate the interactions with people showing up. And I hope everyone's having a really nice day in general. I'm pretty comfortable. I'm just waiting for... Actually, I don't know what I'm waiting for. I think the only thing I really had otherwise planned is I wanted to do some house chores, but I was like, I need to stream first. Like, I wanted to get some general work done, but I was like, I'm just gonna... I procrastinated off until at least the point after the stream. And then at some point, probably later in the evening, I'll, like, vacuum my office room and, like, vacuum downstairs or something. But otherwise, just as for at the usual comfortable weekend. Dante versus Madara. I mean, Dante has Singularity. Good luck. How does Madara? The thing is, Madara doesn't really have a way to put down Dante because of Dante's regeneration, but Dante has the full capabilities of killing Madara with a singularity because it's extremely high level hacks. The description could fit like half old demon pervert. No, he's not. How is he a pervert? Like he's more of like the Viking style of like taking women. Like he's not like creepily groping them or making sexual gestures on the battlefield. He's creepy in that manner, but he's not a pervert. Dante's Abadabasky would be his woman. Yeah, but that doesn't really make him a pervert. Can't Acnologia eat energy or anything or any energy. It has to be magic, but it seems to work if it has connections to magic as well. Like you can't eat curses. Let's see. Well, Dante only asks arcane women. He only asks women who have arcane magic, who are like rare. Accidentally dead from that. No cap. Dead from what? Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think like Acnologia though. At that point, he's at a conceptual level. Acnologia became essentially like again, he became a conceptual being. The way that they counter that though is the motion sickness because it cripples his magic. Because at the root of it, he's still a Dragon Slayer wizard. That was why when Face went off, he dropped out of the sky. That's why when he touched the boat, Christina, when they were fleeing him, like in the later portions of the Alvarez arc, he got affected by motion sickness. He still has the weakness at the very root of all things. How was Acnologia defeated by Natsu? They weakened him. Acnologia was nerfed by motion sickness, which drastically lowers his inability to use magic in general. Wizard bodies need magic in order to function, as well as they need it to essentially just fuel their bodies. And no magic for a Dragon Slayer wizard, as we've seen from motion sickness, pretty much puts them in a crippled-like state. They don't have the ability to really have any of their amplifying abilities, and they just can't really combat at all. And that, plus a 7-fold Dragon Force attack, just took him out. I mean, it felt a bit rushed. I wish it was longer, but I always liked that they beat him logically in a way that preserved his hype. Because if they just overpowered him and they beat him, then the Dragon Gods the Dragon Gods wouldn't be a threat unless they were just outright above Acnologia. It's not he was defeated by a lot of plot. He was defeated by, 1, a weakness that has existed in the series since the very start. 2, Fairy Sphere, which is something that we saw that could work against his abilities all the way back in, Sirius Island. That was 300 chapters prior. As well as that was only with a handful of people, whereas this was a continental-wide unison raid. And they weakened him, and they had a 7-fold Dragon Force attack from Natsu on the other side. And they had the fact that Acnologia took one of his, Ignil took one of Acnologia's arms a year prior, and he went muscle memory to try and block the attack. It was multiple things set up logically. There was nothing that just kind of happened, like in the spur of the moment. Nothing just kind of happened. That's the thing I will always like when it comes to Acnologia's defeat, is it was with ways that made sense and preserved his hype. And I'll always appreciate Mishima from doing that. It wasn't like what happened with old Juha, where they just pulled some magic arrow out of nowhere and he got shot with it and lost all his power. They didn't like, oh, we have a motion sickness dagger we're going to stab him with. No, that didn't happen. They put him on a boat, astral body couldn't move. Yeah, he got crippled by motion sickness. Very simple. Should have got a Roomba. I have a Roomba, but it's downstairs. I don't use it upstairs. I don't use it in my upstairs area just because the charging station for it is downstairs too. Right, so Natsu did not beat Acnologia's plot armor. If you actually think that after I've explained all this to you multiple times, you're lying to yourself purposefully. Let's see. I need to catch up 100 Years Quest. Recent events sound so interesting. They really are. I'm really hyped to see how exactly the Selene arc goes. Who's opponent but unable to move as he wins. Yeah, it made sense. It was stuff all set up in the series, weaknesses that we knew Acnologia had already suffered from being a first-generation Dragon Slayer, as well as abilities that we already saw already had means that could contend with his, like what we saw with Fairy Sphere back on Sirius Island. Like they set that up just to hold him in place to weaken him. They did all that just to exploit a weakness that, again, exploiting a character's weakness is smart. It's like a character getting kryptonite to beat Superman. You don't say, you beat Superman with kryptonite. It's like, yeah, they're smart. They know how to beat this absurdly powerful character because they know what they're doing. Like, again, it's just a smart thing to do. Sometimes, Guillotine, I think that you just like to say stuff without even actually, like, listening to anything I say. Like, I've explained this to you multiple times. Why Natsu is as high as he is in base. Why this made sense with Acnology. You just don't listen to me every time. I swear you just ignore everything I say. 100 Years Quest... 100 Years Quest is the exact same thing as Fairy Tail. It's the exact same style. It's the exact same tone. It's the exact same writer. And Eden Zero is not better than Fairy Tail. I really like Eden Zero, but it's not. Nothing in Eden Zero is beaten the Tower of Heaven Art. Nothing in Eden Zero, I would say, so far has even beaten the Phantom Lord. I'd say it's all really good, but I don't think it's better than Fairy Tail. I absolutely don't. Neuro Rise of Yokai. I don't know if I've heard of that before. I have to look it up. You're supposed to... you're welcome, Weekly Sorcerers chapters and series every 2 weeks. Oh, he's not talking to me. Which small character win, Asta or Wendy? Wendy is much more powerful than Asta right now. I mean, Asta can't do anything. Asta's going to get clapped. The thing is, people underestimate Wendy just because she's, a small girl. But you look at all of her feats, all the things that she's done, and they're extremely impressive. Her keeping up with Irene, extremely impressive. Her doing anything to Acnologia, already really impressive. Like, Wendy is actually a very competent and capable character. Let's see, where was I? Speaking of Superman, we need another Man of Steel movie. I'd be okay with it. The issue right now, I think, is like DC is probably taking a lot more cautious moves when it comes to their movies, because like some of their movies have done really well, but some of them have done very poor, and there's not a lot of in between. But I think they found their style. I think they just need to get like a solid writer to do another Superman movie. Eden Zero is missing amazing antagonists. That is one of the big things I think about Eden Zero. Is Eden, like, Draken Joe is cool. Draken Joe is cool, but he is not as good as Jalal was in the Tower of Heaven. I don't think that at all. I think at most the Draken Joe arc is around Phantom Lord, but I don't think it's as good as Tower of Heaven. I do agree, definitely, like, we don't have enough villains right now. Because, like, even at the same time, 113 in Fairy Tail, we already had Laxus. Well, antagonists, not villains. We had Laxus, we had Jalal, we had the whole battle with Phantom Lord, so obviously Godjiel. We had the small little arc, it's not obviously not villains, but we had the small arc with the Celestial Spirit King. Like, that was really cool, with Loki. Like, I definitely really enjoy Eden Zero, but I don't think it's as good as Fairy Tail. At least that's it. Ziggy is very promising. It really depends on how Mishima goes about his character. I think having him as a longer kind of overarching villain is a good idea. I think that's going to make him stand out a lot. But also how he's liberating these machines as he goes, I think it's going to really flex his influence. And I believe that'll be one of the bigger things to kind of like differentiate him of like Lucia, who was... Lucia was like, he took over like his father's position and reinstated Demon Card to back where it's supposed to be. Ziggy is pretty much restarting his whole regime, but is for the most part going through with the full version and bringing about like this machine uprising. Zeref was multiple layers of complication about just, this tortured soul and how he was just trying to make things better for himself and everyone. DC Cinematic Universe is really missing movies and other characters. Oh yeah, so I think the thing right now with them is they're just kind of like trying to find their set. And I think with Aquaman and Wonder Woman, they kind of found like the tone that they wanted. And then like what will work for them like when it comes to like darker movies. I think Joker actually was a really good move for them, both as a choice in general idea, but also obviously it worked. Because I don't think Disney is going to have any R-rated villain movies. And that's something that DC can definitely capitalize on. Because they have multiple really cool villains that can hold their own movies. And if they're doing more serious R-rated villain like movies like that, like Joker, and make them very kind of like darker and psychological and fully ready to go to like dark, like much more grim reaches and lengths, they're gonna have that big advantage over them. They just have to capitalize on it. Calling it right now, Vierna is going to be the goat dragon. I think he's going to be really cool. I really like to imagine like his human form. It's going to be like this guy in golden armor, and he's like kind of like a King Arthur style, and he's going to have this like flowing, a majestic hair. He's going to just golden Griffith is just really how I see it, like a manly golden Griffith. That's what I'm hoping. The Smallville. I never really watched Smallville. I only saw bits and pieces. I never like watched the show, so I won't know what you mean. Warner Brother Media focus on Batman. I mean, yeah, they love Batman. They don't focus a lot on Superman, but definitely focus on Batman. Rex, I haven't read it yet, but like I said, I haven't forgotten about it. The Mission Yozakura, I have not read it yet, but I have not forgotten about it. I actually thought about it the other day because I wanted to download a couple chapters to read, just like for speed, like having it downloaded so it'll load faster, obviously. But that was what I was thinking of, and I can't remember what I read instead. But it's still on my radar. Enjoyed Wonder Woman. I liked Wonder Woman too. Finished the Draken Joe arc and needed. Oh my god, I'm missing. So I'd been missing so much out. It's a shock what happened halfway through. Missing plot. Yeah, it was really good. I like it. That's what I really like about Draken Joe. And I think again, like we were talking about earlier, with Eden Zero not having a lot of like big villains or big antagonists, rather, Draken Joe is the only one we've really had. And Fairy Tail already had multiple at this point. Even like lesser ones, like Josei wasn't like a big interesting villain, but he was that kind of like very just evil bad guy that I think we needed early on. And then we had Godzilla, who was, this antagonist, similar nature to the main character, but twisted in a few different ways. Jalal, I think the whole story with Jalal and, more Zeref build and the whole like stuff about freedom, I thought that was great. And that again, like that arc is so good. And Eden Zero hasn't topped it yet, but we're still in very early areas of it. And I think it's because, like, whereas the Tower of Heaven focused more on the story between Urza and Jalal, and, Jalal doing stuff, the 40 checkmating, the Magic Council and the stuff with Ethereon, a set focused plot, and I think that was one of the things that would have, that really helped it. So, they're both good, but I definitely would give it more towards the Fairy Tail one. But again, like, you have all that extra time to build Jalal. I think if we got more on Jack and Joe, it'd be a lot closer. But Jalal is just such an interesting villain, especially at the time. I know he was weaker, but that doesn't change the fact that, like, go back and look at both arcs, Guild Team. Go back and look at both arcs and tell me which between Jalal and Drac and Joe had more character build, had more of a relation to the story, and had way more of an emotional payout. Jalal's, going into it, you had the mystery of who Jalal was, the fact he looked like Sieg Hart, Sieg doing stuff at the same time over at the Magic Council, all the stuff going on with Urza, you had Grey development, you had Natsu development, you had Lucy and Juvia development, you had Dragon Force, you had the final big flex when Natsu destroyed a Wizard Saint, you had Natsu carrying Urza out of the wreckage of the tower. Like, it was a great arc. Like, I really like the Drac and Joe arc, but it doesn't come close to the Tower of Heaven. I'm not caught up with Kingdom. I read through, when I caught up at Kingdom, it was like right after Conky started doing stuff, and I didn't like it as much because I think the series does best reading in bulk. Just because it, like, some chapters, like, it doesn't seem like a lot happens, but it's just because the pacing of it is so fast at times, then you'll get through a chapter in, like, 30 seconds. And then it's like, well, shit, I already finished. I think reading it fully through just makes it flow way better. Do I believe that Anti-Magic Devil is Asa's father? I'm seeing the theory. Yeah, I do. I think so. That's what I've been going. How would the Dragon Slayers without Natsu fare against Aizen? I mean, it depends on which Dragon Slayers you're talking about. I mean, really, like, who else are they going to include? Are they going to include Rice? Are they going to include Kyria? Are they going to include Scolion? Are we including Acnologia, Irene? Because the thing is, like, the other Dragon Slayers aren't as bust. Like, the 7 that would probably most referred to, like, without Natsu, are not nearly as powerful, because none of them are as busted as Natsu is. I've read Dark Knight's Metal, but I read the original run. I haven't read any of the stuff that they've done, like, over the last year or so. Hero Somewhere said he wants Eden Zero to be longer than Ravemaster, but shorter than Fairy Tail. Wonder if it will change when time goes on, and if the series gets a lot of popularity. I mean, that's probably going to happen. Because Fairy Tail was originally only supposed to be 10 volumes, and then it, it blew up, got really popular, and then, look at where it's at now. I feel like Rax would like... Yeah, Oh, is that the sequel to Inuyasha? I haven't watched it yet. Skullion versus Jalal. I mean, Jalal should, at least right now, be at a position above Skullion. At least from what we've seen of Skullion's, just his general strength. But we have no idea, though. The thing about that match that would make... The big deciding factor, at least right now, is what Skullion's Dragon Force will be like. Because I think Skullion with Dragon Force is going to be a drastic jump, similar to what we saw with Nibiru. So... And I think it's really going to come down to that, though. Because Jalal should be just, in general, higher. Like, if you just threw them in front of each other, Jalal's going to be more powerful. But the obvious wild card that Skullion has, that we haven't seen yet, is his Dragon Force. Because it wouldn't surprise me if, with Dragon Force, Skullion can beat Jalal. But we don't know exactly the boost that he gets, or if he gets any specific abilities that would help him against Jalal. Lucia versus Phantom Lord Natsu? Lucia. Like, Natsu's gonna get his ass kicked. Lucia's way more powerful than that version. I guess I don't know if you're caught up with Ravemaster or finished. But, like, obviously, Lucia's way more powerful than Phantom Lord Arc Natsu. Rax would win Jigen or Yacht. Probably Yacht, however it's spelled. Or pronounced. Juha Bach. However his name is properly pronounced. I really like this Karazhan music in the background, like with my stream. I think it makes the the points where I'm not talking just seem a little bit nicer. It's not as like a chill song. It's just like this kind of like very odd, ominous tone in the back. I think that's what I like about it. It's just very quietly done. What do you think? You enjoying that as much as I do? Current Natsu versus Lucia. Natsu bodies the shit out of Lucia. Natsu scales way higher, has better feats, he's got more hacks. He actually has experience against hand-to-hand combat people where, for the most part, Lucia did not. Haru never really did a whole lot against hand-to-hand people. That's also, like, one of the things about, like, Natsu, like, in Black Clover. He's got enough experience with pretty much everything he's gonna run across in there. So one more time before, into the stream. We're at, what, like, almost 2 hours? I'd really appreciate anyone who's here. If you could thumbs up the stream, hit the thumbs up video, subscribe if you haven't. And I appreciate all donations. They are not required. They are fully optional from the donors, essentially. Yeah, do you like the music? I really always like the Karazhan music. This is how the music I hear when I think about, like, Marred Gear or like Tartarus, is that just ominously creepy yet fancy kind of like piano music and an organ. I was gonna say accordion, but I'm like, that's not an accordion, it's an organ. Wise versus Jin. Like, actually, I'm probably gonna go with, well, if it's Arsenal-wise, the thing obviously about that Wise has is obviously his Machina Maker, and Jin is very machinery-like. But Wise without Arsenal doesn't have a lot of like good displays of strength, whereas Jin is always, at least without even using his overdrive version, still really powerful. Is it in Shonen Jump? I'll have to look it up. Well, the thing though also about, so Happy Bot and Happy, obviously one is also a robot. If you look at their build as well, like the robot Happy, he's a thick boy. He's much thicker. Yeah, but the thing with Jin versus Wise is Wise obviously has the power advantage in terms of, Machina Maker against the guy with machinery parts, but Jin is outright stronger. New Berserk chapter, I hope so. I got my fingers crossed. Rax, how did Zeref beat Aizen and Madara? Stops time, rips their souls out of their body. Stops time, puts a brain into their a flesh-eating virus into their brain. Stops time, rips their powers out. Stops time, takes their abilities. Stops time, radiates death. Is immortal, can't die. Zeref is super broken. Zeref is hyper broken. Yeah, especially obviously Fairy Heart Zeref is different than base Zeref, but like Zeref busted as hell. Such so catchy music too. I was just gonna say, I think it just sets the tone. Like this even though it's from Warcraft, it sounds so much like Tartaros music. I think I've always enjoyed that kind of like Victorian theme as well, and kind of like weird Victorian, the kind of like wizard and castle style, and that's one of the things I love about Tartarus too. That was one of my favorite lines actually in Mard Gear, and Mard Gear's like talking about how all these people are running amok in his castle, and I was like, yeah, that's true. This dude owns a castle. That's badass in general. Zeref can't be the strongest from Fairy. That's what a lot of people seem to think. Nurse the Drac and Joark was better in Tower of Heaven. You said that Eden Zero was better than Fairy Tail though, so I'm saying like even at the numbers that they are, as much as I obviously enjoy Eden Zero, I don't think they were better than Fairy Tail at this number. I don't even think it's Eden Zero has a lot of build potential, but if we're talking about current numbers, I like Rave Master at like 113 more, and I like Fairy Tail at 113 more.
You just busted a nut.
Thank you for the 5. I don't know what is that currency symbol. It's 5, and is that pounds? I don't know. But thank you for 5 of that unit of currency. For one, Red Space Ranger, always cool. I In Space is definitely up there with my opinion. I obviously my favorite is Lost Galaxy. Magna Defender, Leo Turkina was badass, but In Space, the big things about In Space, obviously like Astronema was super. Astronema is definitely one of the better build ones. Turkina, it has that kind of like level near that, but I don't think she had the full level to kind of go with it. But I did really like Andros and his sister having those constant kind of like back and forth moments between good and evil. I had to rant there just because obviously sickled. Actually, that's the thing too that In Space has is the Cycle Rangers, but they were in Lost Galaxy in the crossover to the 10th power. So I think that counts. Plus, you got to see him versus 10 Rangers instead of 6. Pound. Okay, sweet. Fairy Heart. Why is Arsenal Arm versus Grey Devil Slayer match? Oh, Grey's destroying him. Grey is way above Arsenal. That's not even close. And not like the big thing about the Arsenal suit, obviously from what we've seen, is like how well he's able to work with it, but it doesn't have the sheer level. For one, it's not even like I wouldn't even put him close to Sirius Island Grey. Like I think at best he's like around Fighting Festival, maybe around Arasion Sei's Art Grey with Nirvana, but like I don't think he's definitely not anywhere close to where Grey when he gets the Devil Slaying. See, Fairy Heart Zeref was insanely powerful, could literally reverse time to heal himself. It wasn't even healing, it was just straight reversal of time to give himself a body, undo events. How fast is Grey? I mean, Grey in base is already faster than Light, because he's superior to the Grand Magic Game Natsu, who dodged Sting's laser point blank range. Best Ranger is Green Ranger for Mighty Morphin. Tommy is definitely the most popular. If I had to pick one, like my favorite Ranger is probably Leo Corbett. I mean, Leo Corbett, Lost Galaxy, Red Ranger. Also the Magna Defender. Magna Defender, though, like, technically he's a Ranger because he's part of the group, but obviously he doesn't get his power from the Morphin Grid the same way. But I always really liked his character. Leo, though, is obviously my favorite. Like, I like his Battleizer the most. I think his is the coolest looking. I loved his story. I really like just seeing him in action. He's badass. Zeref can't kill Dark Schneider from Bastard. Isn't he like multiversal, like some god character? I don't know anything about Dark Schneider. Is Madara immortal? Madara is not immortal. Madara obviously died. Madara in Edo Tensei was immortal because he was a zombie. But Zeref can rip that power out of his body. Same thing with Aizen. Aizen's power Like, he was influenced and affected by the Hokyoku. Zeref can literally rip the energy out of your body and take your powers. How do they deal with that? How do they deal with somebody who can stop time and do that? They can't. Why is Wes from Time Force? Wes was really cool too. Wes, in my opinion, is pretty underrated. I think that, like, just because he came back to back, like you had, when it comes to underrated Rangers, Carter is definitely up there. So I think, like, Wes's position just kind of made him, I think Wes's position just kind of, like, sandwiched him amongst too many, like, really underrated Rangers. Him and Cole are both really underrated, in my opinion. I'm trying to think of just in general. Actually, if I had to pick one Ranger that is underrated, like, the most underrated Ranger, it'd be Taizan as the Mercury Ranger. I think that was one of my favorite. He was my favorite character in Operation Overdrive, but also he was the best character. Like, there's a part when they're just, like, talking about, like, oh, why they like being Rangers and stuff, and it's no general stuff that you'd understand. Like, they like the excitement, they like the action, they like having powers and all the cool stuff. Whereas Taizan just wanted to help people. It's very genuine. I actually met the guy who played Taizan, and I brought that up. And he's like, I always thought that too. And it's just really cool. I just remember that. Because I went to Power Morphicon 2018, and I got a bunch of autographs. And I did meet that guy. I didn't get to meet all the people I wanted, but meeting that guy was definitely one of my favorites. Just because, to me, Taizan is just absurdly underrated. Plus, I mean, Mercury is a badass power. Yeah, the infinite punches in one sight. Yeah, that's one of the things. He's, like, way crazy up there with anime. But I don't really know exactly his extent. What could he do to Zeref, though? Really not to overcome Lucia after Grand Magic Games agreed? No. It's not until Alvarez. Because Lucia, for one, Lucia... No, I'm not counting Lucia with Endless. I'm just counting Lucia in general. Lucia after the arc with Hardner was doing stuff to destroy, like, mountains and creating giant fissures and ravines. So I think he was at least Tartarus Arc Natsu, and then at most Alvarez Arc Natsu. Dino Thunder is good. Dino Thunder is really good. One of the things about Dino Thunder that always will be great is just Mesogog's character. Like, Tommy coming back was cool. I think everybody really liked Trent. And just... Mesogog was badass. Mesogog was terrifying. And he was a villain from Power Rangers. He felt kind of like what Lord Zed was to, you know, that next kind of set. And that was one of the things also that's really cool about Tommy coming back and being the Black Dino Thunder Ranger. Mesogog was just super cool. I really liked his character. He was just intimidating as all hell. He was actually one of the ones I really liked to use in the game, because when it came to the show, Mesogog, you could sometimes, if you focused, you could see the actor, like, you could see his mouth under the under all the makeup, but obviously, like, he's wearing, you know, it's a costume. But I think they did it enough that, like, something you couldn't tell unless you put a lot of hard focus on it. But when it came to the game, obviously, they were able to get it more of, like, what the characters see. Instead of a guy in a costume, it's like an actual reptile man. And it just looks so much more badass when he was doing that. I don't know how powerful Dark Schneider is, though, so I can't really say. But it could have made it work, have Natsu and Zeref fight out after they beat Acnologue, yeah. I mean, the thing, though, is, like, you couldn't really have Zeref fight alongside Natsu because of his curse. Like, Zeref was uncontrolled. He's completely uncontrolled. Dude was a wild man. Not should you get a new fit? I would be cool with... Well, we mostly get, like, new outfits, like, in arcs. But I really like Natsu's base outfit. I really like Natsu's long one sleeve, short other sleeve, and he's got kind of, like, a cloak with, like... Oh, another $10 pound. I remember this time. 10 units of currency. If Laxus didn't give his magic energy to Natsu at Tenrai and kept fighting, do you think he would have beaten Hades? No. Because the reason they were able to defeat Hades is because the fight lasted longer than what Laxus would have been able to do. Natsu being able to extend it out, and then Natsu getting Hades to take off his eye patch, use this Devil's Eye, and spend the time to get up Nemesis, and have enough time getting that set up for Natsu to have the part where he gets Fairy Tail back on their feet. I think them doing that opened up a lot of time for, the Exceed to destroy Hades' heart, for Elentear to go and reverse the damage done to the tree. Like, I don't think Laxus could have beaten him. Because the thing that beat Hades wasn't their power, it was the overall teamwork on multiple fronts, as well as obviously that including taking out Hades' heart. Because no heart meant lost his infinite stamina vitality and lost his access to Zeref levels of magic. He lost access to Nemesis, and he was going to use Repent. If you look at the pose he was in, it was the same pose that Zeref's in when he used Repent when Zeref killed him. So he was going to use death magic. That's one of the really broken things about the Battlefield Alliance Guild Masters, is that you have Zero. Zero has Genesis Zero. He can trap you in another dimension that numbs your mind and numbs your body until you just can think and do nothing. Margear has Memento Mori. He can erase your existence. And Hades has Repent. He can just straight use death magic. Zeref didn't have his parents' bodies preserved like he did Natsu's. They were probably destroyed. They were attacked by a dragon. Oh, why didn't Zeref resurrect his parents? I'm guessing that he only had Natsu's body. Make how strong Natsu's video? Maybe. There's some videos I have planning, but I've been lazy. I've been a little lazy lately. I've just been enjoying stuff. I think I've been playing a little bit more games as well. I restarted Sekiro earlier today because I wanted to play it. I've been on the last boss, because I played it when it came out. And then I got to the very last boss. I don't think I did any of the deals, the secret bosses, but I got to the last boss, and then I just stopped playing for some reason. And I'm so rusty at it that I just restarted, because there was no way I was gonna get all my skills back and then just beat this last boss. I actually looked. It said last time I played was May of last year, and I was like, holy shit. But yeah. Let's see. Dark Shenrik can come back from death on a conscious level and destroy atoms. Person's soul itself. That won't matter to Zeref though, because Zeref can have his body destroyed. His curse is gonna bring it back. We already know that soul fuckery doesn't bring him back, or doesn't stop him either, because he had Franmoth. Hello Rax, how am I? I'm good, Sam Jace. How's it going? The lightning flame dragon roar is probably my favorite moment. The anime really juiced that scene up. The anime juiced that roar. It's way bigger in the anime. In the manga, the roar, you see the full damage. The thing is, in the roar in the anime, you didn't see the full damage because the roar was still going off screen. It went all the way across the island. If the anime version, if you pointed that thing directly down, it probably would have done almost as much damage as Actor Logi's roar. They made it absurd in the anime. Super big in the anime. Our system doesn't need bodies, so the Tower of it. Yeah, you're using magic and then a sacrifice. You think Gray could use Memento Mori? No, because Memento Mori is a specific curse. You don't get it by just being a demon. Zeref abandoned his our system research. He already figured out how it'd work. He presented it to it. He already figured out how it worked. He just never made it. Freight on Earth West should get a new studio. I hope so. It would have to be weekly is the thing. If they made 100 Years Quest anime, it couldn't be weekly for one, because it would catch up with the manga way too quickly. And on top of that, I think that they should have a better studio. Because one thing that I think with Jujutsu Kaisen, Fire Force, Kimetsu no Yaiba, all these series have been going weekly. All of them have been, seasonal. The only, what other weekly anime has there been other than Black Clover? Black Clover is as far as I know, because My Hero's not weekly. My Hero's seasonal. Fire Force is seasonal. Even when Seven Deadly Sins, Seven Deadly Sins, the anime is still going. It's seasonal. There aren't a lot of weekly anime. Boruto, I think, is sorry. There aren't a lot of weekly anime anymore. It's all seasonal now, and I think that they know that they're gonna get more. I think that they've realized that they get better feedback and sales increase way more when they have a really good anime rather than just shoving out as much of the anime as possible. Because look at the attention Jujutsu Kaisen has gotten the last two weeks. 2 weeks. And I'm really hoping Eden Zero's anime isn't weekly. I'm hoping it's seasonal. I'm hoping we get like a somewhere with like 24 episodes or something, and they take their time and they make things look really crisp and nice. And that's what I'm hoping with 100 Years Quest as well. I'm hoping that we can get a really solid studio if they decide to do it, because I would rather them not do an anime for it if they were going to end up, if the anime ended up being poorly done. Because even though I actually really like Alvarez. Alvarez, I would say, is tied for my favorite arcs in Fairy Tail that are done. My number one is Tartaros, and my second place is tied between Sirius Island and Alvarez. But when it comes to Sirius Island versus Alvarez in the anime, there's very large quality gaps. And not in the general sense of just like, oh, this scene and this scene. It very small stuff. Like, for some reason, Natsu's fire being gold. Natsu's scales being almost like a brownish color. In Sirius Island in the anime, like I said, they juiced up a lot of fights and they added like extra content. They didn't do a whole lot of that when it came to when it came to Alvarez. I would prefer them to do less and just do a better job. Like, each season of 100 Years Quest anime should be set on the Dragon Gods. We should have one that focuses. The one is like the start of the 100 Years Quest, and then it goes on through Mercephobia. Second season goes through Alderaan. A third season goes into Elentear with Selene. And each one could just be each Dragon God. And then that would give them really well spacing as well, on top of everything else. Yeah, Boruto and Black Clover, they're like the only ones that do weekly anymore. Like One Piece, but One Piece has been doing weekly for, years and years. Everything else is doing, Laxus would beat Yoruichi pretty easily. Fairy Tail, I think, would do better seasonal, and I'm hoping Eden Zero is seasonal as well. And it's, from everything, all the series that I think that studio has done that is doing Eden Zero, it looks like they're doing seasonal. And like I said, I think the companies that own the IPs going seasonal makes more sense. And if the rumors are true when it comes to Black Clover, is that after this anime arc, they're going to go on a small hiatus for a couple months. I've heard that. I don't know if that's true. But I think that they could go seasonal and it would work just fine. But I don't know if maybe Black Clover stays probably weekly, just because it's managed to be very successful for them as a weekly series. I know how well the anime is placed. So for 100 Years Quest, I really want them to give like a good product. I don't need Mappa or Ufotable or anything. I just want a solid and consistent animation studio. Like, if they could do it with just, like, the level of quality that Tartaros got, I'd be perfectly happy. Maybe make it a little bit cleaner, because obviously if it's seasonal, I think it would have to be a little cleaner. But, like, Tartaros' animation actually looks really nice, and the coloring of that arc looks really nice, too. So, that's just what I'm hoping. I really don't want them to do 100 Years Quest anime if it looks bad, or if they half-ass it. Not half-ass, if the people in charge of the funding and everything behind it don't put a lot of effort into it. Because I don't really blame the studios and the animators, because they work with what they're given. They work with the time and the resources what they're given. I don't think there's a lot of them that are actually lazy, because obviously the Japanese work ethic, they're very like headstrong and getting stuff done. They're very business orientated, and I don't think any of them enjoy putting out like bad products. Because anytime we see like Tabata, anytime like a chapter we get like a short week, Tabata feels bad, and he thinks he's not doing the best for like the fans. They don't like it when they're disappointing the fans. So I'm really hoping that they figure that out and they end up having more solid animation for it if they do it. Ishin's an insanely hard fight. You'll never beat eventually. All about those parrying moves. Which Fairy Tail girl could beat Yoruichi? Urza. Urza beats her just fine. Sling crossing benches higher than just planetary. Oh, it depends on how she does it. Urza, yeah, I mean, she's gonna be fine. Laxus one-shots Urza's lightning armor. Yeah, but Laxus is completely another... Laxus is more powerful than Yoruichi, for sure. That's not even comparable. I think Eden Zero anime will be good. Yeah, I do. I think, though, the big thing that will, depends on... my big thing that I'll say depends when it comes to, general, before the episodes even show up, is how many episodes they have. How many episodes the anime does, I think, in the first season, I think is really going to be like a preemptive determination. Like, if they do 24 episodes, let's say they do 24 episodes, and they try and do somewhere between, like, 2 to 3 chapters per episode, and try and fit everything from the start through the Sun Jewel arc. And that's, like, let me see where that ends. That ends in, like, the 60s, right? I don't think it's in the 70s. I think it ends in the 60s. Let me see. Eden Zero. I'm pulling up the chapters. So I don't want them to, like, forcefully shorten stuff to, like, mess with the point in the series. I'm trying to think of, like, when the best part with Drac and Joe would be. Because Kurenai's arc, I think, ends on... Because if you do 24, you do 2.5... Let's say you do 2.5 episodes per. That's, like, what, 60 episodes? Or 60 chapters, rather. So you do, like, around, like, 2.5 to 3 chapters per episode or something like that. You pick up the pace a little bit in the first season to try and get everyone in a good spot. I think that would, you know, put it in a really good area for the anime. To, like, cover good ground while still being, like, pretty hype. And be not too many episodes. Because if they have too many episodes, that's going to be a bit worrisome of like, oh, well, you know, they're stretching out the budget, time, and animation on going to be so far stretched versus like if it's like 24 episodes, they're going to have way more time to work on stuff. Let me see. Where was I? 26 episodes expected for Jujutsu Kaisen. I heard it was 24 or 26, so they should be fine. Very tall. It's faster than Bleach. That is correct. How exactly does Asta beat Meliodas? Just wondering. I mean, I don't think Asta can beat Meliodas. I know right now there's definitely people that will argue with me about that, but I haven't put enough effort and thought into that specific match. But like, really, for me, it comes down to like Meliodas is just. He's a more experienced fighter. He's got way more physical power or physical force than Asta. And I think in general, he can disarm and put more damage to Asta than Asta has against Meliodas. And I see I just got another super chat from the Red Space Ranger, another 5 pounds. Let me read this real quick. It's about to pop up on my screen. So I was trying to finish what I was saying before it happened because my notifications is going to inform me at any point in time. For some reason it hasn't, so I'm just going to click it. Oh, wait, there it is.
Oh, shit. You just busted a nut.
Anyway, yeah, thank you again. I actually don't know how its sales are in comparison. I can't prove this, but I think a lot of 100 Years Quest sales are in the digital chapter releases. Because let me pull up the app right now. I think Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest bookmark, because every chapter is like $1 or something. Like a singular chapter is like $1. And the bookmark for 100 Years Quest, yeah, it's 536,000. So assuming every chapter sells somewhere around one of each, you know, they're probably, you know, they're making a shit ton. If they're making somewhere around like 500,000 per chapter. And then obviously physical later. It's always been weird to me that they never reveal digital sales and they only reveal physical sales. Because I think that with their app and the systems that they've been going more towards, I think they've been going more digital. For, was it Kodansha? I can't remember. I get Kodansha and Shueisha mixed up all the time. I think Kodansha is Shonen Magazine. I don't know, though, which one sells more than the other. I think they both sell pretty fine, though, from last time I heard. I haven't heard in a while, but I know 100 Years Quest, obviously both are selling, I guess, to keep in, and one's getting an anime. Fire Force has been incredible. I've been catching up on Fire Force. I've really been enjoying it. I got caught up, and I thought, like, because I had, like, a big gap of time of, like, 20-something chapters, and I was, like, wondering when I was going to get to see Arthur fight, because someone was hyping up Arthur, and then I don't even think he fights. I didn't even see him do it. Oh, I already read this one, the Eden Zero anime. I do think it's going to be good. Boruto ongoing anime, but there have been some breaks. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think JC Staff has done weekly. That's one of the things also. I think they've only done seasonal. So the chances are that it will be seasonal is very high. He's 20. Oh, I read this one. I think fast. How fast do you think Lucy is? Like Lightspeed, or she's definitely faster than Lightspeed. Because if Grand Magic Games, like if you put Grand Magic Games and Natsu against current Lucy, I do think Lucy is winning. I think Lucy is high Wizard Saint to low Spriggan tier right now, based off of magic and just like her general capabilities. Like I genuinely think Lucy's very high up there. Not like high up there, but high in the overall world, but like somewhere low Spriggan. Is there a licensing problem though? A1 still probably has the Fairy Tail license. That's one of the reasons I think Hiro Mishima changed it to Fairy Tail Under Deer's Quest, because it's technically under a different IP now. It's a completely different it's a completely different title, because it's not referred to or labeled as Fairy Tail. It's Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest. It's a completely different product at this point in terms of just the general IP. Let's see. I was trying to get caught up. Let's see. I keep thinking that I'm caught up, and then right when I get... There we go. Hoping Zero anime is good animation. Me too. Need Black Clover to become seasonal after this. I would hope... I'd be perfectly okay with that. Because I know that their animations, like, people get overworked. Maybe A1 will be done with SAO by then, because they put more stuff on Earth's West. Again, if A1... and Clover works, if they just made it look nice and didn't make it look like easy times where you can tell that they were skimming corners, I'll be fine with it. But I don't think it can be weekly. That's the biggest thing about 100 Years Quest anime, is it can't be weekly. It has to be seasonal. It will catch up way too fast. Because we're only 66 chapters in 100 Years Quest, and it's bi-weekly. So if it's weekly, like if the anime is weekly, they'll catch up in less than a year. Where it's like if we're getting 26 chapters, or somewhere around 26 chapters a year with 100 Years Quest, if every single anime, and we had around that for the arcs, because it was like 24 chapters for Mercephobia, and then that to now is 30. It was like 40 chapters or so. No, I think it's like 35, or hang on, because if it was at 20, somewhere at 24, and then what's that, like 38 chapters or so until 39 or something, until the Celine stuff started and Edela stuff started. So taking that into episodes, if we get something like, oh, we're gonna do 12 episodes, and each of those 12 episodes or 24 episodes or whatever covers whatever Dragon God arc they're in, then they'll keep distance just fine. People not talking to me. The Gashian doesn't remotely comply with light. Oh, wait, light detection? I don't know what they're talking about. These aren't me. This also isn't me. He's talking about Bleach now. I don't know why Jason doesn't make videos. It's his own thing. Can't wait to see Suzaku in action. I really want to see that sword. It looks badass. Because that's something that I've said a lot when it comes to Fairy Tail, is we don't have a lot of iconic swords. Like, if I thought about, like, just badass, like, standout sword designs in Fairy Tail, the first one I'm going to think of is the Celestial Spirit King sword, and it doesn't even have a name. We don't know if it has a name or not. And we don't know if obviously if a name for Suzaku, but Suzaku having a badass, very unique sword, and not just being a katana, or, like, a plain claymore, or something just standard, I think it just adds a little bit extra to his character. It makes him look really badass. And in general, I just want to see what his abilities are, because obviously he's hype in general, and more Dragon Slayers is always more fun. Wait, are you telling me? How old am I? 25. Oh, he's talking to Jason. He's over 9,000. Fairy Tail being faster than Bleach laughable? No, it's not. Here's the thing. Natsu in base already in Grand Magic Games was faster than Light. The gap between Natsu in Grand Magic Games, who's low Wizard Saint tier at best, and Natsu in Alvarez, who could one-shot Spriggans. He can go toe-to-toe with uppers. He could one-shot lower Spriggans, go toe-to-toe with medium-level Spriggans, and contend somewhat with upper Spriggans, and he could keep up with Zeref. The Natsu that we've seen with Dragon Force is hundreds of times stronger than base Natsu. Ethereal Dragon Force Natsu is millions of times stronger. Bleach can't keep up with that at all. Lily Barrow's attack is like a spatial attack. It's not the same as like a laser. It's like he aims and then it's just like deletes stuff within that space between where he was aiming and the barrel of his gun. It's completely different. It's not the same thing as like a speed-based attack. It's more of just the range of his ability in general. I'd be fine with 23 episodes a year, something like that. Like 24 would be fine. I just my big thing with a 100 Years Quest anime would be, as long as they pace it out well, they don't try and just shove stuff out there, and it doesn't like catch up with the manga for obvious bad reasons of when you catch up with the source material. I would love a seasonal anime. Let me see. Maybe he changed it 100 Years Quest. That's what I think. I think he changed the name so he could get a different studio. More stuff out at me. 100 Years Quest anime is a long ways away. Start probably at the end of 2022. I don't know if it'd be that long. Like sometime next year, maybe like mid to late next year would be, I think, more likely. But like 2 years from now would be. I feel like that's too far out. I feel like that would be way too far, like along the line of things. Could be wrong, but 2 years from now, like we'd already be closing to like near the ender areas, I would assume. Because by 2 years from now, we'll probably be done with Selene, and we'll be somewhere either near the end of Viernes or Ignia, I would assume. Live stream the Eden Zero game? Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'll do that for sure. Suzaku about to be go to... yeah, I have a lot of hype in Suzaku. There's a lot also of just general around his character that I am very interested in. Like, people have brought up, obviously, his name Suzaku, meaning vermilion, and the feather-like design on his character more than likely refers to the Phoenix that is one of the four, the four Guardians. And we don't know how many of the dragon, like the Black Dragon Slayer Knights there are. But if there's 4 of them, and they're all based off of these Guardians, that means we're going to... Oh, the Azure one would be kind of hard because it's already a dragon, but I guess just whatever the Azure Dragon's power would be. White Tiger, and then... Is it White Tiger? I know there's a turtle. It's Tiger, Turtle, Phoenix, Dragon. I would love to see like a Tiger Dragon or a Turtle Dragon. That'd be badass. Something like that, like obviously already would be really cool. I really want to see just in general Suzaku like just in action. Like how exactly his character is going to, like how busted is he going to be? What is he going to be able to do? I want to see like a scene where like maybe we get some form of kind of like foddery dragon. Because I still believe that there are dragons out there in the world. They don't have to obviously be too powerful. Some could just be outright hiding. And or even just a big monster. And to see Suzaku just like have a display where he like touches his sword and it's like he's already unsheathed and resheathed it, and just like the opponent just kind of gets like minced into nothing or something. Like he's like, oh, I just slashed this guy 10,000 times in a microsecond or something crazy. Something like that I think would be super, super big hype and just raw badass to see for him. His character I very much want to see. Hate to say, but it's time for me to go. Oh, that's alright. I appreciate you showing up to the stream. I'm going to call it good soon. We're already at almost 2.5 hours. I appreciate everyone for showing up. We've had some pretty consistent numbers, too. Like, we've been around upper 20s to 30s of people. And I think that's about as many we have as well for the likes on the stream at 29. One dislike, though. I wonder who disliked the stream. But, so, like I said, pretty solid interaction, pretty solid communication, and I like the activity of the people that show up to come to hang out. Give us your reasoning why Shiki is Ziggy's original dead planet turned into Mother by... Wait. I mean, just the idea is... For one, I think, okay, well, Shiki's very emotional. What if it's, like, emotions like the seasons? Obviously, gravity being a power of the planet, that just, like, large bodies have. It's not like I have a million pinpoints. It's like, that, and then, like, Mother can apparently, like, give, like, rebirth people, recreate them. It's like, what if she, did that to a planet, it became Shiki? It's not like I have something like some multiple point connections to the story. It's just like small bits and crazy ideas right now. We don't have a lot towards Shiki's origin, so it's kind of hard. 100 Quest anime by 2026, that would suck. The waiting that long would hurt. Lucy needs Celestial Spirit Queen dress. I 100% agree with that. I think a lot of people really want to see that. I think she deserves to get the Celestial Spirit King key. She could be the first Celestial Spirit Wizard to ever get it. She deserves it. 2077. Nah, that's too long. Fairy Tail Phantoms are in Civil War the past few days. The Nightwalker drama is silly. Nightwalker drama is extremely silly. She hasn't fought for 9 years. She peaked at Wizard Saint level, and she has no reason to even participate in the upcoming arc. So why would she? Why would people think she could still fight? Dude, it's been 9 years. She's obviously going to be different. Who cares if she's like this battle maid? Like, people think she's going to be the same character after 9 years of relatively no fighting is silly. How many light speed feats are there in Fairy Tail? Off the top of my head, we have Natsu and Margear dealing with Sting's Roar. We have Gildarts outspeeding lasers in Ice Trail. Just out of the top of my head, I can pull those out. I can look at maybe some others. I know at least 3 off the top of my head. I'm trying really hard to think of some right now, though. I just want Mystican to marry her. I mean, yeah, everyone's pretty cool with that. See, I have... wait, let me read this. I have contention with Sting being light speed since it bends itself. That's because he can manipulate it, though. The thing is, no dragon element should be weaker than its natural self, because we know stronger versions of their element can hurt them. Like what we saw with Natsu when he went up against Zenkro. A stronger flame was able to hurt him. They don't have full immunity, but it's more of like this extremely high level of resistance. Look at Gray when he fought against Invul. A colder cold, literally the essence of the cold, could hurt him. Stronger flames could hurt Natsu. Look at Wendy and Laxus against Sharia and Orga. Stronger versions can hurt them, weaker versions cannot. So their natural element is generally just outright inferior to their dragon element. Meaning, like, Dragon Light and Dragon Lightning should be faster than Natural Light and Natural Lightning. That just makes sense. Like, Dragon Fire burns hotter. Dragon Metal is more dense. It's harder. Dragon Lightning has more energy. Like, they all have shown, just in general, to be superior than their natural counterparts. CGI for White's Arsenal armor. I don't know about CGI. I don't want that. Stop. Oh, you said you hope they don't do it. I thought you were trolling. I don't want them to do that. I don't want CGI. I want more hand-drawn stuff. Natsu, Hades, Lurky, Future Rogue, and others have been made lasers and other light. That's true. That as well. Max, what do you think about the big reveal for Black Clover will be in December? Game or a movie? I want a solid Black Clover game. I want, like, actually a really solid Black Clover game. I'd be perfectly fine with them just doing, like, a Switch game. Like, I've already mentioned this to somebody. I'd be perfectly fine, actually, if they just made a game kind of like how the Fairy Tail game was, like a turn-based RPG. So I feel like a turn-based RPG can work with most series. And it's a super solid way to do it, that as long as you don't fuck up the base ideas of the game, you're going to get 1, turn-based RPG players, and 2, people who are fans of whatever genre, or whatever series that they make the IP of. Alden Arc took over 2 years to wrap up. Maybe Celine will get past 3. Again, perfectly fine with that. Max, what do you think of it? I already read that one. Sting's light refracts through ether nanos. I mean, he can also just straight manipulate it. Natsu can make his fire into shapes and letters. It is light, but in Fairy Tail you can give properties to your magic. For example, Natsu makes his fire solid as a rope. I mean, they generally can manipulate it. They generally can just straight manipulate it. Again, Natsu has made letters out of his fire. He's made shapes. It's just they can also manipulate it, but their elements are superior. Sting's is a holy light. It is outright better than normal light. The thing is, light doesn't bend. Fire doesn't bend the way that Natsu does it either. Their elements generally don't do these things. Like, Future Rogue made a sword out of shadow. He made a physical blade out of shadow. They can manipulate their abilities. But it doesn't change the fact that their abilities are superior versions of those elements. Like, Sting is not affected by light magic. His light is better. His dragon elements have proven throughout the series to be superior to their natural counterparts. Otherwise, their natural counterparts would be able to damage them, as we've seen when superior versions of an element go at any of these dragon slayers. If the potency of said element is more than what they can handle, it's going to do damage. So obviously their natural elements are automatically going to be below their dragon element versions. Let me see. Ladies' feet is only It's anime only, but even in the manga, there's like 10 plus. Where was that at? Let me see. When was the Hades rack to delight? Are you talking about like with Laxus or Exotic Lute's house? I just have to pick up clothes. Like I'm super lazy. Like during the week, like I'll take off my socks when I get home from work and just leave them like on the floor in my room, or like my coat that I wore that day. A lot of it is a lot of the stuff, mostly like when it comes to just generally cleaning, it's just like, oh, leave something somewhere, and just I'm too lazy to pick it up, and I'll get it later. It's not like, oh, I spilled this plate of food and left it there for 3 days or something gross. It's more of just like, there's a lot of clutter. Macrofty's light magic, anime stuff though, but like, yeah. Iron Nancy and Macro team up, wonder what will happen. And I'm already fine with team ups. If he wants to do a collab sometime, I'm perfectly cool with it. Hendrickson, you have an Instagram, a Twitter. Oh, I assume most people in here have Twitters. Anyway, oh wait, how far do you think Asta will progress with his anti-magic ability? I mean, I think eventually he's going to just become like radiating anti-magic all the time. Fairy Tale Slayers are eaters. They eat most elemental characters. What does that have to do with anything, though? For example, if Grand Magic is Natsu is faster than light, the Spriggans are also faster than light since they're strong. Yes. 100%. Facts, how does Natsu beat Meliodas and Asta? Bodies the shit out of them. Faster, stronger. He's way better at combat improvisation. He's fought more impressive characters, because Meliodas is obviously older, but Meliodas doesn't have nearly as many impressive victories under his belt as Natsu. I mean, like the Demon King isn't even Spriggan level. Like that dude doesn't even come close to Spriggan level. Yeah, Natsu vaporized them. Yeah, he just completely obliterated him. But anyway, I'm gonna end the stream. No, Meliodas is not debatable. Meliodas gets his ass destroyed by Natsu. Natsu puts him in the dirt. Natsu completely puts him in the dirt. Stuff that, like, the Demon King could do is, like, stuff that Ikusa Tsunagi could do. Anyway, I'm going to end the stream. I appreciate everyone for showing up. I thank everybody that donated to the stream, everybody who liked the stream, and everybody that participated. So, yeah, any other questions, if you want to add me on Twitter, you know, obviously, same name. But other than that, I hope you guys all have a good night and a good weekend. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. Yeah. DM me on No, Fairy Tail is awesome. You shut up, Byron Nancy. Fairy Tail is great. If you want to collab, we'll do a collab, but I'll talk about how goat Fairy Tail is. I already had to argue with someone earlier who's trying to tell me fucking Tomura Shigaraki is better because he's wrecking a city with his, like, crew of villains. And meanwhile, Zeref is pretty much, like, a driving force behind almost everything that happens in the entire series. What would Full Counter do? Natsu had his fire doubled back at him by the Vanished Brothers, and it did nothing. So what does Full Counter do? Full Counter doesn't do anything to Natsu. You full counter Natsu's fire back, so what? He's just going to walk through it. And then he's going to go up and he's going to punch Meliodas into the dirt. Because Meliodas doesn't even come close to Natsu. Meliodas doesn't even have his immortality anymore. Natsu burns up all of his darkness. Natsu completely melts his sword. Natsu just puts him into the dirt. Meliodas cannot compete with Natsu. I mean, it doesn't even matter if he can, it doesn't even matter if he eats the fire or not. Because doubling back his fire, that happened with the Vanished Brothers. Did nothing. Full Counter's not doing anything to Natsu. But anyway, I'm going to end the stream. Like I said, thanks.